I'm trying to figure out why it's not working on YouTube. There we go. All right. We're live on YouTube.
All right. You want to go live then here?
Yeah. Do you just see like the green background? Is that what you see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right. We'll figure this out.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll do this again. Do you drink at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was actually wondering if I should go.
It is 5 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, let me do that right before.
Yeah, you do that. I'm gonna try and fix my mic.
All right. Cool. I'll be right back.
Settings. Output speakers. Alrighty, I think that'll work. How do I change? I wonder if you can hear him on YouTube. that would be so much better. I think I have to add another audio output capture. Audio output capture. Maybe that'll work. Properties. Alright, so I hear that. I got 12 Days of Socks. Star Wars edition. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to see if like I can hear you through YouTube. Yeah, I'm ready. It's fun. Sounds good. Day after Christmas. We have not. We just seemed so natural when we got on. We're like, yo, what's up? What's up? You drink? Yeah. All right, let's go. The baby carriage. I honestly didn't know it was called the baby carriage until years later. I thought it was cool. Yeah, like he still has a 2-up save because he's wearing Terminator armor. That makes sense. So long but quick story. I started in a store called Allied Hobbies in the mall, and it was like toy trains and airplanes and stuff like that. I was maybe 10, maybe 10. And I saw this box, like it was probably like this big, and it had the old school Termagants on it, like the really weird looking Termagant models, like the plastic ones, and there were 6 of them. So I convinced my dad to buy them for us, and I still remember the store owner just shaking his head like, no, like this is not a 10-year-old game. And I brought him home, paint him like the worst you could ever see, and then me and my brother would make up rules on the game. Eventually, fast forward years later, me and my friend actually got into it kind of more in depth. Like actually we read the rules, got the rule book and everything. That was probably when I was like 15. And then I played for a year or two back when we used to actually go to a Games Workshop store to play. And then I stopped for like a long time until I got into college, and I found a local store. I walked in, I saw that they were playing 40K. I was like, holy shit, I know this game. I got an army, teach me. So they taught me, got really super competitive like at that store, went to a bunch of tournaments, and then started branching out to more stores. And then that was back when Drago Wing was the thing. So I guess 5th, 6th? Drago Wing. You weren't back. You started in 8th. So this was 5th or 6th where. Yep. Yeah, you roll a leadership test and it just dies. That was so cool. But they had a thing where you can run 10 paladins, and you can pick where their wounds go as long as their weapons are different. So in the codex, you used to have master crafted options. So you would make a storm bolter master crafted, which means you could just re-roll the shot. So what we would do is we'd have 10 different models, or 10 models, but geared out 10 different ways. One had a master crafted storm bolter, one had a master crafted sword, one had a master crafted halberd, one had a master crafted halberd sword. Like, you just basically master crafted everything you wanted to, and then each person, you would have to roll one dice at a time, because each person was different, technically. And then it would basically just be all 2-ups. That's all you were trying to do. And if you wanted to, Drago can take it on his 3-up, and then if he takes enough wounds, then you could start taking other people again. It was the most bullshit thing ever. Yep. You needed to wipe the unit to kill somebody, basically. Because then, yeah, it was so bad. Basically, you would just walk up the table with the paladins and Drago, and then in the back you had the autocannon Dreadnoughts, which had 4 or 8 shots of the autocannons. Yep. Yep. I had 6 of them, I think. So when I got back into 9th, recently, I found all my dreads and they all still had autocannons on them. So none of my dreadnoughts are kitted out with anything, basically. And you can't find the actual bits for plasma or, meltas or anything, so it's annoying.
Resorted to 3D printing. I have a resin printer, so like here I've got this little guy. So here's my Grandmaster Dreadnought. Now you can't,
that's awesome.
can't see, but like I've got a bunch of 3D printed parts on him. Mm-hmm. Like I've got this little like tabard here. I don't usually do this, so and I've got this thing that's now magnetized, so I can make him a Grandmaster or not a Grandmaster, or a Grandmaster, not a Grandmaster. And I've had to resort to 3D printing for all this stuff, just because I'm not gonna pay $15 for a plasma gun from the UK. So that's right. Who's that by? DMG Minis or whatever?
I got it off Etsy. So I guess somebody who 3D printed on Etsy just sells them. And it's pretty expensive, but you only need 1 or 2 of them if you want to. It's like $35. Yeah. But it makes it stand out so much. It's like they're thick. And it covers up the baby carriage.
Yeah, I've got one of those too. But so we're starting to get viewers trickling in. I want everybody to know, please ask your questions. Yeah, Patchy Bear is already throwing shade at us, so I love it. Keep that up. That's why we do these live streams. So please ask questions and make fun of me or Derek, whichever.
Yep.
Yeah.
All day.
So you had...
Yeah. So I started back in 9th, about 5-6 months ago, and my boy Jack, who I used to play with a long time ago, got me back into it, and it just made things so much easier. The rules, the simplicity, like 9th edition rules are so much different than back in the day. And I think it's more fair too. Can't just spam like 20 units. Yeah, and so much faster.
Yeah, like I remember hearing stories because some of the people I play with have been playing for quite a while, and they remember like weapon plating facing and
armor values.
If all the weapons like weren't able to see the target, then you could only fire with the weapon that could see the target, which is very realistic. And I'm sure that there are war games out there for like, you know, World War II or whatever, where that's all very cool, but like, you know,
well, they used to have armor values.
It can do nothing but slow down the game, you know?
Yep. And like, I had the old codex here. This is the last one I had. It's basically the same cover, but there's armor values in the thing. Like this is you can't see, it's all blurred out. Land Raider had a 14 armor value, front, side, and rear. So basically you had to crack the armor value, and if you crack the armor value, then you could roll on its HP. So if you had like power 4 weapons, you weren't touching a Land Raider. So Land Raiders used to be amazing back in the day.
Which is funny,
now they just
where
die.
They are now.
Oh,
so
they just die.
So Shazzy is throwing us shade. He says that you know what they're talking about when they say you're the slayer of Sasha. Now, if I remember right, I was just watching your video a few hours ago about your like latest RTT, and if I remember right, there was a guy there who's a pretty well-known Black Templars player who you like trounced. So you got to like smack around like a pretty decent player. So,
I mean, I said it in the video, but I didn't know who he was. Like, it's funny. Every like really good player is super nice. So like throughout the whole game, we're like talking back and forth, like super friendly. And on let's just say bottom 1, I killed his Apothecary, Chaplain, and Contemptor Dread on bottom 1. So like going into turn against Black Templar and one of the best Black Templar players in the United States. Like, I had no idea who this guy was. So my confidence level now after that is pretty good. But then I like, we talked at the end, and then at the very end of the tournament, they're like, I can't believe you beat Sasha. Can't believe you beat Sasha. Oh my God, he wins all the time. And I'm like, who is this Sasha guy? I go back to my main store. They're like, dude, I can't believe you beat Sasha. I'm like, who the fuck is this Sasha guy? But yeah, he's just a super cool Black Templar player that I guess goes to all the GTs and play GTs. So he's awesome. And I would never, and I'm going to give a shout out to Brian. I would never have beaten him if it wasn't for the guy who plays with us all the time, who plays Black Templar and almost runs a similar list. So I basically faced that list like 15 times before I came to this tournament.
Nice. Yeah, I got to meet Black Templars at that RTT. First time I'd ever played him versus a guy who's pretty good in my local area, and he absolutely, completely curb stomped me. It was not... Like,
they have so
he was
much
very
tech.
nice, and like he was super chill, and he even like helped me deploy and talked about how he's deploying. Like, once he learned I was a new player, and he's like, all right, let's go. And then just like, I mean, he did get a 10-inch long bomb charge off on me, but he was like, he just wrecked my face. So
yeah, Black Templars are very good against Grey Knights. And I was telling him about the psychic stoppage. Like, Brian runs, like, everybody tries to beat Grey Knights basically at my meta. Like, they're like, all right, how do I beat 4 Dread Knights, or how do I beat Derek? That's the meta. Yeah. So
how do I beat 5 goddamn Dread Knights?
Yeah, I started running 4, so I slimmed it down a little bit. But he basically has 2 denials, so he has 2 chances to deny a psychic power, and then he has a stratagem he can use to roll 4 up, and then it just denies. So he saves all of it for psychic amplification, which is our best spell, like, hands down. So he's like, all right, I don't care what the hell you roll. You could smite me all day. Just tell me when you're going to do psychic amplification. And then
it's really funny because in 8th, everybody was trying to wait. Like, everybody I fought was like, when's Rick gonna cast Astral Aim? That's when I'm gonna deny. I'm gonna stop Astral Aim from going off. But now Astral Aim's so bad, nobody fucking casts it anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever casted this new codex.
I have not yet. So Shazzy Bear is asking if we've thought about a max mortal wound list. This is kind of jumping the gun a little bit because
we have a list.
We do have a list. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is what we might think the Army of Renown could look like. And I honestly, like, what I'm hoping, and this is complete conjecture. Like, I have no idea what I'm actually saying. So, I think it might be kind of like a Dark Angels thing, where you get like a Vanguard detachment, but you get back all of the CP, and then you have to basically just bring Honored Knights in one way or another, and they may allow like strike squads. Have you seen how weird some of the Army of Renowns are? Like, this would not, like, the Honored Knight keyword exists, right? And all it really does right now, and I said this in my latest video, or one of my latest videos.
Yep.
Yeah, and I said, like, so the problem right now is Paladins and Purifiers and Venerable Dreadnoughts and stuff. If you bring them, you're effectively saying you don't even get half of our cool shit, right? Like, you're rolling with this Brotherhood, but you don't get any of the stuff from that Brotherhood, right? So, you know, fuck you. So the Honored Knight has to do something at some time. Because right now it's actually exclusive, not inclusive, right? So I'm thinking that our Army of Renown will have something to do with the Honored Knight keyword. And what I'm hoping is there'll be a Hall of Champions Brotherhood that they add, and then the Honored Knight will do stuff. I know that doesn't really fit with our lore, because we have, like, the Order of Purifiers and the Hall of Champions, and most Dreadnoughts are actually in the Purifiers, you know, like Brotherhood, but, like, the Honored Knight keyword has to do something. So what I was thinking, I was actually walking my dog today, and this is how I'm going to drag this back to Shazzy's question, is I was like, man, if I could just bring, like, 2 Vanguard detachments and basically just bring Purifiers, Paladins, Vendreads, Drago, and Crow. Right? They're all Honored Knights. I don't know how you'd get around OBSEC. I don't know how they would do that, but, like, the psychic potential, because I'm like, of course I'll put Purifying Flame on all of my Paladin squads. So it wouldn't even be Smite spam. It'd be fucking Purifying Flame spam, you know? And then you could still have the Paladins cast Smite, have the Purifiers cast Purifying Flame, and that way they're like, they've got their 2 different casts that increase. The Purifiers obviously get +1. You can make the Paladins pretty tanky with, like, Armored Resilience and Sanctuary, or some, like, warding staves or something, right? Like, you could actually make them pretty hard to shift. So I was like, but that would be awful to walk into and just get, like, you got six Purifier squads just all...
Until you see a Thousand Suns player across the table and you're like, well, I lost.
Yeah, I have not had the misfortune of playing them yet.
There's
have you?
There's a player in my store. His name's Nolan. He plays Dark Eldar or Jakari, and then Black Thousand Suns. And he just it's just I brought a Calyxus Assassin literally just to play him. that's
I remember.
You probably saw me talk about it, but, like, it was so good against him. But that's how much I hated playing Thousand Suns, is because they literally stop all the psychic powers that we have. Yeah, it was just so bad.
One of my friends that also, kind of like you, he plays Drukari. He also has a pretty decent Thousand Suns army. He doesn't have it quite figured out for 9th yet, but I'm like, hey man, I'd love to play you. I cannot wait for our 45-minute psychic phases. It's like, I cast, I deny, I cast, I deny, I cast, I deny. You know, it's just, like, never ending.
I could literally tell you a quick Thousand Suns list. It's Contemptor, or it's Redemptor Dreads, the 2 16-shot things.
Yeah, so you were right. So Contemptors, not because Redemptors are the Primaris.
Are the big ones, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the, like, really chonky ones. Yeah.
2 of those. You need 3 units of 5 Terminators. You need 3 characters, pick whatever characters you want, 3
Saruman,
small
obviously.
units of 3 small units
Guy's
of regular
amazing.
Marines, and then you need Spawn, and that's your Thousand Suns list. Like the Terminators alone are fucking insanely good with their -2 damage shots. Like how do their Stonebolters have that? I that's just, and then they ignore 1 and 2 AP because then it reduces it to 1 damage. So like you just don't die. You can't ever get off psychic amplification because they just stop it. So it's like there's so much
All is
that they
dust,
have.
baby.
Yeah, so they just have so much against us that it's an uphill battle from the start against a Thousand Suns player.
I've never played it, but have you heard of the Liam Hackett build?
Mm-mm.
So he's a very well-known Australian tournament player, and this guy, he's been on the Art of War podcast and stuff. But he basically takes it's 5 max squads. I think it's 3 10-mans of rubrics and 2 or 3 10-mans of the Terminators. I can't remember which. 2 rhinos, some characters. He does Cult of Time. And then he just stacks like CP, so he has just like 14 CP throughout the game, basically. Like, not including what you get, but he's got like a warlord trait that actually regens it. So he's got like a ton, right? Like he does not care about spending anything. So he does all is dust all the time. So if you fire at anything with like more than 1 damage, he gets -1 damage. He brings whatever their version of the apothecary is. I think it's one of their HQs. I cannot remember. But then with Cult of Time, you get to res 2 models, not 1 model. So if you kill a Terminator through the -1 damage, the +1 save, the ignoring AP 1 and 2, he then reses up to 2 of them a turn. He has to spend a CP or 2 to do it, but like I just said, he does not care. Like he has so much CP, he's drowning in it. I think he said his average is like 19 a game. He gets 19 CP a game, including what he gets, each turn, plus his regen, plus
run
when he
that
starts
guy. Because that's the same.
Yeah.
It's almost the same as Black Templar, right? Because they have the 0 CP return your Lord of Feast that has the -1 damage every single turn. So it's like anytime you see, like, and our apothecary fucking sucks, like compared to all these other people's apothecaries.
Yeah.
So
that's another thing that I wanted to actually bring up is like we didn't get any of those, like upgrades. Like we don't get Master of Sanctity, we don't get Chief Apothecary, we don't get like Selfless Healer, we don't get Chief Librarian, which kind of makes sense because we're an army of librarians. So that one, like, okay, whatever, but like, why can't I have a baller ass apothecary? Yeah. Why can't I be like bringing guys back for no CP and healing every turn? Or if you want to make it a power, we could do that too. Like we can play that game. Cool. But can I at least do that? Can I please do this?
If you could heal, bring one back, and make it a power, that would be insane. But I don't know. It's like our apothecary does hit like a truck though. So if you do get into combat with him, he is going to probably kill you.
But his weapon skill, if I remember right, was actually dropped from 2 to 3.
I don't,
because in 8th
was it 2? I didn't play 8th, so I don't know what it was.
Okay, so in 8th it was 2, and I'm pretty sure that that's right, and I'm sure chat will correct me if I'm wrong, but it was 2, which is why everybody ran him with a hammer, which is why mine has a hammer.
Yes,
is because you could just put 10 points on him. He was already pretty cheap at like 75 points or 80 points. So you make him 90 points, and he's actually, really scary.
What I did was one last blade thing was I brought the 75-point apothecary, gave it the deep strike within 3, and then fucking 13 mortal wounds to the dude. Like we lost Inner Fire. That sucks. Yeah. But Inner Fire was so fun.
Was hilarious.
And I came back to that. Like that was brand new to me. I'm gonna get a beer, but keep talking. I can hear you.
All right. I used to run Inner Fire on Drago because he has so many wounds. So if he if he took one wound, who cares? Marsha, hello. Are you still there, Shazzy? You got any more shade to throw at either of us? Any more questions from anybody, please?
I like the Slayer of Sasha. That's fucking hilarious.
What's that?
The Slayer of Sasha. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
That just made my
Slayer
night.
of Sasha. You should reach out and let him know. It's 3+ now, but I think it was 2+ in 8th. In fact, hold on. Now I'm really. I will actually switch over. So I'm going to switch over to Battlescribe here, and I will actually look. So I can go to 8th. Oh, I went to the wrong thing. So I can actually go to 8th edition, right here. Go to factions, Grey Knights, and Gary.
What we had back in the day as well is, I think the biggest thing that I don't like. The biggest thing that I don't like.
2-up.
That's ridiculous. The biggest thing that I don't like is that Terminators hit on 4s with heavy weapons. That's probably and we lost a shot with our side cannon. Like we used to have 4 shots, now we have 3 shots. Because that's what we used to run. Is we used to walk up the Terminators and just shoot everything. And now we can't even use Terminators. Now we can't even use heavy weapons because you just hit on 4s. Like it's so bad.
I don't remember what it was, but there was an edition where Terminators, Stormbolters were assault, not rapid fire. So like their whole thing, right? Their Dreadnought armor. They're able to just walk up the board as fast as they can, which wasn't fast, and fire as much as they possibly could. I think that's what they tried to do when they rolled it into Bolter Discipline, where it's like, regardless of your range, you can still fire all 4 shots, right? But it's like, now you can't advance and shoot, and maybe it was like Assault 2, like, so it was half the shots, but you could still shoot.
So I have this old edition. This is the last time I played. This is like 6 or something. It says, Silencer was heavy 6, but side cannon was 2-4 rending. Like we used to have rending side cannons. Rending is like
isn't that
6.
That's still a thing in AOS, right?
I think so, yeah.
Like rending, yeah.
Yeah. So like this is so old.
So what did it used to do?
Basically, if you get 6s, it would it just did like an auto wound. So you can shoot whatever the hell you wanted, and it just auto wounded. Like it's almost like having rending storm bolters on a lane raider. You just wound on 6s, it's auto rend. Okay,
so it was like our Cybolt ammunition strat, where it's like on natural hits of 6, it would auto wound.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Dude, this is so different. I'm not even gonna look at this book. This will confuse me. No more of that book.
It's just too much.
Let's put that away. Yeah. That's done.
Yeah. Oh man. Shazzy Bear again is like jumping the gun here. He's like talking about how bad paladins are now.
Dude, hold on. Time out.
Okay.
So we got this is gonna be the list. So we got why we like them, why we're playing them. We already went over that. Current meta against Grey Knights, 4 Grey Knights. So we're kind of going over that now. Best lists in the meta, favorite units / strats, fun lists, which is going to be a shit ton of paladins, a shit ton of crow, a shit ton of purifiers, nerf, the question, and then new missions 2020. So that's going to be kind of like what we're going to be talking about. But we're going to be talking about paladins like a fucking shit ton because I love paladins.
Me too, man.
And I'm hopefully going to get them to work. I'm going to steal Black Templar strat. And try it out with paladins.
The problem, so oh man, you just threw so much at me, and I want to
they have storm shields,
apart all of it. No, so all right, with Sanctuary or Warding saves and Armored Resilience, which by the way also got a nerf. Everybody's mad about Astral Lane, but nobody talks about Armored Resilience because it used to be, for anybody who remembers, -1 to be fucking wounded, which was insane. I will take that over +1 armor save any day.
Yes.
And that alone, if you change that power back to that alone would make people bring paladins.
Yeah.
-1 to be wounded? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Strength 8, and now you're like, nope, you're wounding me on 3s. Like, get out of here. That would be
so
amazing.
We need so much for it to go right. I played Paladins and Terminators 2 or 3 times, and if you miss one spell, you're fucked. Like, it's not gonna be a good game. They're just gonna die. So like I missed, I don't know if you saw the game. It was against Black Templar, Brian, who one-shotted 5 Paladins with a sweep attack from his Black Templar Grandmaster. Like he just walked up and just killed 5 Paladins
from
one hit.
Helberich?
Yeah, because I didn't have the 4-up invuln save. So basically, I missed one power, and now I'm dead. So there's so much psychic offense or defense against us that they can stop one of our best powers, and then the unit kind of goes to shit.
So I want to address a question in chat real quick. So Peter is asking, is there a way to build Grey Knights without Dreadknights? He says he hates the models, which, okay, fair. I love them, but it's not for everyone. And so he then goes on to ask, I want a classic list with Terminators and Librarians, etc. And obviously you can build that list. Is it competitive? I don't think so. There are a number of reasons why, and I can get into that if you all want. But to answer the first part of that question, I did an interview on my channel recently with Stuart Traynor, who is a very good, I think he was the #1 Grey Knight player in last year in Australia. So this guy knows. Nice. I think he took 3rd in 2020. I think he took 3rd with 8th edition Grey Knights. That's how good he is. Okay. He has had success lately with an all power armor list, except for three characters that are in Terminator armor. So it's not really what you're looking for, my man, with more Terminators. But it is a list with 0 Dreadknights in it. And I think he and I speak for almost 3 hours. So if you have any questions on how to run that, that's probably a great place to start.
So I made a list. It's called 70 Marines. And it's basically 70 strike.
Is that the one Marines. Is that the one that you sent me earlier?
I don't think I sent you this one. It basically doesn't have a Dreadnought.
You sent me one with 3 Dreads and a Land Raider.
Yeah, please even test that out.
Yeah,
there's so many lists I made in the past like 3 days because of Christmas. But this one has the thing with Dreadknights is they're your anti-tank. They're your like killing Contemptor Dreads, because Contemptor Dreads are our weakness because they're toughness 7. They have shit ton of wounds, -1 damage. So how do you kill those? And if you get into,
do you mean Contemptors or
is it
Redemptors?
I mix up the names all the time. I know it's those really fat ones that Space Marines have.
Yeah. So those are 13 wounds, toughness 7. Yeah, those are Redemptors.
They have 3 damage.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
The Contemptors are 9 wounds, which is their big downfall. They're way smaller. Like the model is dinky,
and they have the 16 shot mortal wound damage. Yeah. That's all my meta is either those guys or the big Dreadnoughts. Like the little guys are fine because if you're in Tides of Shadows, you just ignore the -1 AP. But the big guys are the ones that you have to figure out how to kill them. So if you have them in your meta, you have to bring either hammers, you have to bring side cannons, you have to like strat around it to try and do it. Because I assaulted one time, halberds into it, and I'm still winning on 5s. If you don't get any 6s, it's gonna live. So you're just gonna get one-shotted by the Dread. So you're gonna die. So it's like your whole army of regular dudes are not gonna get past these Dreadnoughts. So that's the biggest question you have to ask is like, how am I gonna kill these Dreadnoughts? And the other thing is like, I made a list specifically focused on missions. Like in ninth edition, it's all about secondary missions. It's all about getting points. It's all about holding objectives. So you can literally play an entire game without getting on the other side, other opponent's table quarter. And if you want to play that meta, don't run the Dreadknights. Like you can literally just hide behind buildings, hide behind cover, move, shoot, jump with your interceptors, like stay in the middle of the board. And like you can do a lot of stuff without Dreadknights. But most of the time you have to be able to kill the Dreadknights. That's why we need, or Dreadnoughts. That's why we need the Dreadknights.
Yeah.
So that's my take on that. But yeah, I made a 70 Marine list with 2 Rhinos.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. And Peter goes on to say that he finds power armor only to be an abomination. I've read the lore. I feel like that's a little strong. I do miss my Terminators though. Like the models are great. I love that idea of like a unmovable brick. And then Peter goes on to say like, Dark Angels, Death Guard, and 1K Suns have just like amazing Terminators. And then ours are almost as expensive as Death Guard, not as good, don't have bodyguard, don't have -1 damage. Like, yeah, they have like psychic, but you're just gonna cast Hammerhand, let's be honest. Because Hammerhand is incredible. Well, they could cast Smite, right? But rerolling all wounds
so good.
Is very good. There's no way around that. But
you know who else has that?
Drukari for like 1 fucking CP. Oh yeah, no, that's true. That's absolutely true. But yeah, so the problem is, and if you've watched my video again, I'm gonna plug this a lot. But the problem with Grey Knights, it's not that Grey Knights have a problem. We're very competitive. We're very good. I'm not gonna say that we aren't. But the problem is, I think that there were some design cues that were missed that could have made Grey Knights more fun and more viable for a wider range of builds. But those points were missed. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that our Terminators are so damned expensive. So either they need to be made better, like just given an inherent 4-up invul, or they need to be dropped in points. That's the way I feel. Like you're not going to see Terminators run unless like power armor increases to like 26 points or something, and then you might see Terminators being run. But if that happens, I think we'll just not see Grey Knights run almost at all. Yeah.
it's such a 6 eggs, 12 eggs. Like you can literally run 2 strikes compared to 1 Terminator, and it's the same stats. The only thing they get is the invul and save innately, which most of the time they're just not gonna, like, you have double the body count, more wounds. Yeah. And it's like, why would I sacrifice 2 models compared to 1 just because I think it's cool? And I do think it's cool. I have 50 Terminators sitting on the shelf that aren't doing anything right now. It's sad because I love them and I ran them all back in the day. But now it's like I have to buy. I've just put together 10 more interceptors, like yesterday, because that's the meta.
Dude. Yeah. I built 20 interceptors before my last tournament. And I built them with swords. And I ran them at the tournament, and they were fine. Like, they actually did great. I ran into nothing but Space Marine players, so it was fine.
Not bad,
But I just built 20 more with halberds.
There you go. all of mine are with halberds.
I gotta paint them all and everything.
I shaved down the bottom hand. You know how, like, they all hold them 2 hands? I hate that. Like, it's the hardest thing to do. So I shaved down the bottom hand, and I just use the top hand, and they're all holding 1 halberd with 1 hand, and the other one's holding a stormbolter. It's just so much easier to model, to sculpt, to do all that stuff with the halberds.
No, I've been doing that too for a long time, and I don't know why. Like, I saw a post on the Grey Knights Facebook group 2 or 3 days ago where this guy is asking, like, how the hell do you deal with these 2 arms? Like, how do you pose this shit? It's stupid. And I'm like, you cut off the bottom hand,
helmet,
file it down, And then if there's like a divot in it, you could fill that with green stuff if you're really feeling froggy,
Yeah,
or you can just leave it because no one will notice.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't do that either. I think that's just like
and
plus like there's those like cool poses where they're like leaning forward with like it's way better than them standing there with the Hold on,
I'm trying to find my model. So
all of mine are out in my garage, so if I go do that, I'll be gone for a while.
Hopefully this isn't blurry. Let me know if you can see this.
Everything you have, sir, is blurry.
So he's got like a halberd in the
and he's like
holding it behind him.
Yeah, that's
right?
fantastic.
That's one. This one, same thing. This is like my favorite pose. He's literally just like aiming and holding it behind him.
So I try not to do that pose only because the halberd sticks out far enough. It makes like moving the bases a little wonky.
And then this guy just kind of like standing there saying like, "You shall not pass." You know.
So a bunch
like
of mine
so
are
many
like
different
that,
models.
basically. Where they've got them upright, almost like a kind of parade like formation.
So what I noticed was what screwed me in tournaments is they go based off the model. So when I started going back to tournaments in this edition, everything's based off the model. Line of sight is like the sword, the halberd, whatever it may be. So some mine are like in cool ass poses, like halberd over the head, like going like this, and it's fucking like this high off the model. So through the
that's
window,
actually,
they see it, and I'm like, well, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So, every single model you just saw, they're all down. Every single sword is down.
Like on my Grandmaster, I built this thing, right? So it'll just like snap off and on. But I made it so that it's still short, and it will be bright gold, obviously. And it'll make it very obvious to my opponent that that's a Grandmaster, but it also isn't like a giant flag on their back, you know what I mean? Where it's like one of those huge standards just standing up where it like that's a like 5.5 inch tall model, and then that would add like 3 more inches onto it, which is knight height, you know.
Do you
like that's almost
cut
like
the sword off and turn it upside down?
Sometimes, yeah.
I did that on one of my
I've got all my
Grandmasters.
stuff magnetized, so I've got all of my weapon options magnetized, so I can flip the sword backwards or whatever. Yeah, I also play Death Watch, and they have so many options for all of their weapons that I was like, fuck that. I started magnetizing right off the bat. So my entire Death Watch army is completely magnetized. All the Marines, all the Terminators, all the everything. Because there's no way I'm gonna go buy 500 Death Watch veterans to try to account for half of the total weapon combos I could possibly have. Like, I'm just not doing it.
That's why I just put halberds on everybody, because it's just like, it's more consistent, I guess. But like you said, if you see all Marines, it's like, yeah, the swords will be better. But if I don't see Marines, I see...
Well, so when I was talking to Stuart Trainer, he actually brought up a really great point. I love this. Is that he said on his strikes, he runs nothing but swords, and it's because his strikes get hammerhand.
Hammerhand. Yeah.
So if you run into a Plague Burst Crawler or whatever tank, and you're rolling 5s, you're rolling 5s, but you're rolling 5s re-rolling all your missed wounds.
Yeah.
And if you're running into Space Marines, it's like, guess what? Now you're slapping them onto -3 AP for a 6-up save. That's a terrible place. They don't want that. Like, a 5-up is quite literally, mathematically, 100% better than a 6-up. So that extra AP is actually really good. But if you don't have Hammerhand, like on our Interceptors, the halberds are better into a wider array of opponents. So I'm going with that. Like once he said that, I was like, oh, that makes a ton of sense.
That makes so much
right?
sense.
So like I'm not gonna send in a strike squad unless I have to that doesn't have Hammerhand.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it. Right?
Yeah, most
so
of my
I'm gonna
strikes
slap
are literally
them all with
just in the
sword.
backfield. So whatever I have kitted on them, they just, all right, cool. They're in the backfield. If you get to them, I probably fucked up, or like there's something wrong with my strikes. Most of the time, if you deep strike, I'm deep striking the interceptor squad behind a building, so that way next turn they hop out 12 and just do whatever they gotta do.
The interceptors have the biggest glow up. I mean, the Dreadknights are what everybody's like, oh my god, I hate these things. But the interceptors had the biggest glow up of the whole book, man. I saw that book, I bought those models, I built those things, and with one wound, they were so fucking awful and so expensive, and they died to like a stiff breeze or a bad fart. And now, man, with all the powers and like the Brotherhood stuff, right? So like a Rapier's Interceptor squad is gonna do what, 21 attacks?
Think about this.
With mastercrafted weapons?
I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he thinks that the Prescient would be better because it's the same CP. CP, you get +1 attack. But you could do the Prescient, and you get to reroll 1s to hit and wound. So if you're not by a Grandmaster,
where are you getting the extra? Where are you getting the extra attack?
No, you lose out on the attack. So
I actually run Prescient.
So do I.
Brethren. Okay.
I ran Rapiers the past
I see.
2 times
you
though.
Lose one. I got you now.
Yeah, so basically the Prescient 1 CP.
Sorry about that.
Use your stratagem in shooting phase and Prescient Brotherhood and army select the shoot in the fight phase. Or in the fight phase when the Prescient Brotherhood until the end of the phase, each time a model in the unit makes an attack, reroll an attack roll of 1 and a wound roll of 1. So basically you're rerolling attacks and wounds of 1, which is better statistically than for 1 CP rather than the exploding 6s.
So it's if you have the book out, I want you to go look at Sword Brethren, their stratagem, which is 2 CP to reroll 1s to hit, not wound, 1s to hit, in ranged combat only. And I'm like, who the fuck wrote this book?
It's some of these like you'll never see, and I've tried some of them. I tried to give them a chance, and it's just there's only like 3 good ones that you really want to run.
Yeah,
maybe 4. Like I don't run Sword Bearers, but Sword Bearers is good. I really like Blades of Victory. I really like Blades of Victory if I'm going to run 2 Grandmasters. I really like Prescient just for the +1 CP, and Rapiers is just one of the best. But I think over Rapiers, I might just go Prescient from now on. And just bring a Tech Priest to get me the 1 CP every single turn.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know it's on our list of stuff to talk about.
We've already skipped like 15 times.
I know. I mean, this is a conversation, right? It's fluid. It's dynamic. Exactly. Yeah. So let me see. Shazzy said they're already running 3 Dreadnought. Actually, Peter asks, what is gonna happen when Games Workshop nerfs Dreadknights? So I know this is one of the things we wanted to talk about. I know we have some opinions on it. But I'll let you take the reins on this one, Derek.
Nerfing meaning that we're going to get points increase, or we're not going to be able to run 5?
However you think they may get nerfed.
So I've already been testing out that we're not going to be able to run 2 Brotherhoods per army list. So if you can only run 1 Brotherhood, I've just been testing out 1 Brotherhood with 4 Dreadknights. So I'll run the Grandmaster and 3 Dreadknights with like 30 Interceptors. And I feel like if I lose out on 1 Dreadknight, like let's say it goes up in points, I could lose 1 Dreadknight and maybe add more Interceptors or add more strikes or add another Tech Priest or whatever it may be.
I don't think Purifiers or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a huge change, especially if you start practicing now. The only thing that's going to change is I'm going to have one Grandmaster sitting on my shelf, never ever being used ever again, because I have 5 now. I only can run 4. But besides that, I think if we start getting used to it now, it won't slap us in the face in the future. So I think if you start running 4, if not 3, like I made so many lists over the weekend of just running 3, replace it with people that are going to be in that slot of what it does. And what it does is it kills tanks, and it hits really good in combat.
At range.
At range. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like strength
I think
8
that's an
at range,
important...
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, like,
Dreadnought.
what I would...
Dreadnought. Try a Dreadnought.
You
try this.
cannot try a Dreadnought.
They're so good, though.
No, like, they are, but they aren't. Like, that's the thing, right? Is a normal Dreadnought, I'm specifically talking about not a venerable Dreadnought, okay, is actually not that great. For 10 points more or 15 points more, you make to them venerable, they get +1 more, they hit, they get that sweet, like, 6-up, feel no pain, which doesn't sound that great, but is actually pretty damn clutch to just ignore 16% of all the damage that actually comes at you. That's that's increasing its wound count by 16%. That's nuts, right? So, you just can't bring a normal Dreadnought, and you want to bring a normal one because then it gets its Brotherhood of powers, and if you bring a venerable one, it has Honored Knight, which we already talked about briefly, and it can't use Brotherhood powers. So it's the best thing I could think of for a venerable Dreadnought is it sits on a backfield with missile launcher and las cannon, it toes out so it can see stuff, and it shoots, and then its psychic power is Purifying Ritual. And that's 145 points to do that. I'd rather just have a 110 point strike squad that doesn't sit there. Yeah, actually, probably. But I'd rather spend 110 points for a strike squad and have them sit there completely out of line of sight and do the same damn thing and still grant me points, right? I just don't... Like, right now, until they give the benefit of 2 Honored Knight, I just don't see Dreadnoughts being good, or they have to nerf Dread Knights into oblivion. If they do that, though, I don't think Grey Knights have a lot of play. Like, Stuart Traynor is doing very well with that power armor list, but he also straight up said, like, this is a very high skill ceiling list. He's like, I have to play KG as hell. I have to know what my opponent's thinking, what they're gonna do. So for most of us, like me, I'm a new player. I'm gonna get absolutely massacred if I run nothing but power. And
you're gonna waste a lot of money buying that list, you know. So it's like such a deterrent. Like, oh, you only need 70 Marines to be good at Grey Knights, you know. So like, no, you only need really 2 Dread Knights and a bunch of Marines and maybe some Terminators. Like, you can run a fun Grey Knight list and do well. That's basically what the army is. You don't, like, in the competitive scene, you might need more Interceptors or more Dread Knights, but honestly, if you look at the book, let's say they nerf the Dread Knight, like, more points, you can take out one of the Dread Knights, add a regular Dreadnought or a Venerable Dreadnought. But if you add a regular Dreadnought, you can put a multi-melta with a close combat weapon, walk it up next to, like, your little Grandmaster and your Terminators or Paladins. Like, I'm trying to make that list now. But 2 Dread Knights behind it, and they reroll 1s to wound. So you have your Grandmaster, which they reroll 1s to hit, and then now everything within 6 inches, they reroll 1s to wound. So your 2 Dread Knights and your unit of Paladins or Terminators are rerolling everything. Yeah. So it's like, it has its like buffs, but of course not. It's not as good as a fucking Dread Knight. Like, nothing's as good as a Dread Knight. But if they nerf it,
and that's the thing. Like, but so what you're saying there, and I'm not trying to say don't try out stuff. Like, and I'm not trying to say don't run the stuff that you want to run. Okay, I'm not trying to be like a dick. I'm just trying to say, like, there's a reason in the competitive meta that we're only seeing really 2 data sheets that are brought as much, well, 3 technically if you include the Grandmaster as its own, but like,
Yeah.
right? Like, the Codex won out on 3 data sheets. Nemesis Dreadnought, Grandmaster in Nemesis Dreadnought, and Interceptors. Because everything else, like, the strikes are very good. Honestly, probably the best fucking troop in the game for point, right? 22 points.
Yeah.
Rerolling all wounds, mastercrafted like weapons were very, very good. But like when you compare and contrast to the Dreadnought and the Interceptor, it just falls on its face. You can't just bring 100 fucking like strike squads and win the game.
This is the argument I have with Grey Knights: is
100
there's nothing to replace it
Marines.
with. We have a book that's limited. Like, we didn't get any new models in the release. We might have got a new character here and there, but there's nothing new in the book, so we're limited to what we have.
Yeah, Crow was a new model, but not a new date.
No, exactly.
Not a new character, and his data sheet's way better.
But you shoot him in the fucking face with a melta-gun, and he dies. Like, his thing is being in melee, and if he can't get into melee, he dies, which has happened every single time I run Crow. Like, if you're playing a good player, like Sasha or the Eldar player, they just shoot him. Yeah, they're just like, you know what? I'm gonna shoot Crow in the face. I'm like, yeah, but he's like, no, I'm just gonna shoot him in the face. I'm like, yeah, but no, I'm just gonna shoot him in the face, and then he fucking dies. I'll miss a 4 binvul, and he doesn't have -1 damage. Like, he just literally dies. So
I mean.
But what new models did we get? Like,
that's melted,
think about
though,
a Space
right?
Marine.
Like,
think about a Space Marine Codex. Think about a Dark Eldar Codex. Think about like the Custodes Codex. Even they have fucking more units that they can take rather than just us.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like we're limited to good shit, 3 things. Okay shit, 5 things. Like, who wants to run a 360 point Storm Raven that gets blown up in 1 turn? Who wants to run a 290 point Land Raider that is literally going to get blown up in 1 turn? There's nothing else that we have that is going to replace it. So if they nerf it or get it more points, okay, I can understand that. But what are you doing to a Grey Knight player? You're basically just slapping him in the face.
So we have Shazzy here saying that losing 2 detachment of Brotherhoods doesn't really make any sense with Drago buffing everybody and then running 1 Grandmaster Dreadnought and 3 normal Dreads makes it really the same problem, and basically won't, or that doesn't actually nerf Dreads, or I think he means Dread Knights. And then he goes on to say that Brad Chester on the Art of War podcast kind of spills the beans about like potential upcoming nerfs, and that he thinks that Dreads will be limited to 3 total. So what that effectively means is, for the rule of 3, Grandmasters and normal Dread Knights would end up counting as the same data sheet. And I think that there are other data sheets in the game that already do this. So this isn't new or wild or crazy. I think this is honestly the most elegant solution. It will totally limit every Grey Knight army to bringing 3 of your choice. You can bring 3 normal ones, 2 Grandmasters and a normal one, or whatever, right? It will still keep the Dread Knights at the same price. It will still keep them very good. You can still bring a Sword Brothers or Sword Bearers detachment with 3 of them, of the normal ones. And then they're gonna, if you have a Tech Marine nearby, they're gonna hit on 2s. They can reroll 1s from Drago or a Grandmaster or whatever is nearby, right? Very good still. But it isn't, it's gonna give us points to take other stuff. But we can already only take 30 interceptors, right? And most of our lists already are. So I think that if that happens, like if they say, hey, you can only bring 3 Dread Knights and nothing else happens, I don't think Grey Knights will be competitive. Like, there will be people doing okay with them, just fine. Like, but I'm not Stuart Traynor, right? I'm not like Richard Siegler. So, how do we... My long-winded point here is how do we bring everything into balance where you get to pick the things that you want to play versus the things that are obviously the standout winners. And again, I want to make this obvious, we're very good. Grey Knights are doing very well. I'm not saying we aren't. But I want to see Terminator lists. I want to see more Purifiers. I want to see that Storm Raven not just kick ass at a tiny tournament in Sweden, right? Because there was a guy that actually won a GT, I think it was in Sweden, and he brought a Storm Raven, but I can't help but wonder if that wasn't a tilt thing.
Like he brought it in turn 3 or something.
To see me twice now.
Sorry, I lost you.
You lost me, or?
So with Discord, I don't know what it is. It's it shuts off after, I don't know, an hour, like every single time.
Oh.
So let me see if I can extend it. Pop out.
Weird.
All right, cool.
I haven't had that, but.
So last thing I heard was bringing the Storm Raven and winning a GT.
Yeah. Anyway, it was just a long-winded tirade. I want to see the rest of our stuff be good, and that stuff can become good either by making the Brotherhoods worth a shit, right? Because again, I mentioned this in my video, right? If you look at orc clan cultures, if you look at admech like Forge Worlds, if you look at the Sisters orders, if you look at all of these new codexes, when they chose their order or their clan or whatever, they got huge passive buffs. Drukhari, for God's sake,
Black
right?
Templar.
Well, they get to pick their... Yeah, I mean, that's a little different because it's Space Marines. But my point is, they get this huge bunch of passive buffs for taking... we are our own codex. I guess Black Templars are too. They're not...
Yeah, no. They still have the Space Marine
right?
stuff. Yeah.
Anyway, if you had Sword Bearers gave a 5-up invul to all vehicles, I know that that's a blanket statement, but my point is, you might see more Sword Bearers lists that run Rhinos and Land Raiders and Storm Ravens, because you're going to give an inherent defensive bonus to these otherwise very expensive, not the Rhino, but very expensive units, right? And that's kind of their downfall. If you look at Deathwatch lists right now, we see a lot of Deathwatch lists bring 6 Redemptors and 6 Contemptors because they can give those Dreadnoughts all a 5-up invul, which is plugging a gap in their defensive capabilities that you can't really do with most other chapters.
Yeah. And
so I'm saying
that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Is they all have so many different options. We don't.
Well, if you see the Land Raider, right?
Yeah.
265 base points.
Yeah.
You throw some multi-melta on there, it's 290, 285. And what do you get for that? Yeah, it's got a shitload of wounds and it's T8. Great. What else do you get for that? Well, it's still hitting on 3s. It doesn't have an invul. It's got a 2-up, which is, very good. But if you get hit with any, plasma in Devastator Doctrine, you don't even get a save. They just die. I'm saying that if they had given a Brotherhood a passive to buff up,
that makes sense.
The negative of a Land Raider, maybe you'd see some people taking that Brotherhood and some Land Raiders, right? I don't know. I just...
Yeah. Instead of just getting a power, you think they should get a passive as well?
Well, I mean, look at these other armies. Straight up. Go, look at the Orc Codex. If you pick Blood Axes, or you pick Freebooters, or you pick Goths, like you get different bonuses, and I know somebody's gonna mention like, oh, Grey Knights are basically just Space Marines, and you guys get, the Space Marine, and it's like, no, we don't. Like, we don't get to take intercessors or eradicators or infiltrators or anything. Like,
we get tides.
No, tides are good. Like, I'm not trying to say like what we got was garbage. It's obviously not. We're doing very well. Like, you can make things work. Like, I mean like just
the Brotherhood.
I mean for a play style thing. Okay? Mm-hmm. So like say like I like to play very defensively. So say I took a Brotherhood that buffed up my Terminators, made them very hard to kill, but maybe I couldn't use Tide of Celerity or, whatever other like negative I get. But my bonus is I get to play the game I like to play in the playstyle I like. But then maybe Blades of Victory gets some, advance in charge or some other huge aggressive bonus where like you lose a defensive bonus and you gain this like massive offensive bonus, right? Which makes sense for the lore based on each individual Brotherhood, but then also allows the player themselves to pick a playstyle that they really like. And I know we're always going to get the competitive choice, right? Like folks that are out there making things work. Like for Drew Kari, you always saw Cult of Strife. And then when it first came out, you saw Dark Technomancers, which were fucking ridiculous. And now we're on like Thick City. I just wish the Brotherhoods provided other opportunities for playstyle choices. Not necessarily like this is the best one, which will always happen, but like, you like Terminators because that's one of your 8 data sheets. Here, go play Terminators really well. Have a great time playing Terminators, but we don't get that. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, that's just changing the whole codex at that point. It's like now we have to wait till 10th edition to get a new codex.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not so like starry-eyed that I don't realize like because when we see the balance decisions that Games Workshop has made so far, it's either taking away core or adding core, or it's like increasing or decreasing points. That one's really easy and obvious. But they don't ever really, like, when the freebooters orcs were so disgusting, you didn't see them change the clan culture, right?
Yeah.
Because they're probably like, no, we don't, that's so integral to that, like, type of orc. We don't want to change it. So instead they made it so, you can only take so many buggies, right? So I suspect we'll probably see balance like that, where it's like you can only take so many Dreadknights.
And I didn't even think about that 3 thing. I think I heard it once, but like just having 3 Dreadknights is now I have 2 Dreadknights that I have to sell instead of 1 Dreadknight I have to sell. So it's like it's literally just like you're making me sell my army because you're limiting me to 3 Dreadknights. But it might be cool because then you could test out 2 Brotherhoods still. Like you could still bring 2 Grandmasters, which just beef out the most you can with the Grandmasters, and have 1 Dreadknight to kind of like be in Blades of Victory to get up with your other Grandmaster to try and assault turn 1. Like there's some play you can do with that, but it also does limit. Like I would probably start running regular HQs and just bring 3 Dreadknights and just kind of have them like sit in a pod next to a Drago or a Tech Marine or 2 Tech Marines or even 3 Tech Marines. Like just have 3 Tech Marines walk up with 3 Dreadknights and just kind of have interceptors run around everywhere. So it plays in different factors. I don't think it's still going to be competitive. Like going down to 5 to 3, it's a huge nerf. But I still think you can make it competitive. Like 30 interceptors, I just ran it for the first time at the last tournament, and I
can't run less than amazing. 25, man.
It wasn't even at a tournament. It wasn't at a tournament. I ran it. Wait, was it at the tournament? Was my video at the tournament 30 interceptors?
I
honestly don't remember.
Honestly remember, but like
But I ran it for the first
I
time.
love them so much. I
felt
can't
like
run
I was
less
cheating.
than 20.
Dude, I ran it
25.
I ran it for the first time, 30 interceptors, and I felt like I was cheating. I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. How did I never run this ever again? Like, because I think 20 was the most I ran before this. And they would like hop out, they would get an objective, and they would die. They would hop out, get an objective, they would die. And then by turn 2 or 3, I'd die. Like, they were all over the place. But when you have 30, oh my god, it's like it's never ending. Movement 12, -2 damage, 2, like it is insanely good.
Yeah.
So every list I have, it's like I'm trying to get 30 interceptors in there.
Yeah, man. I mean, like we said, if they nerf if they nerf Dreadknights, you can only bring 3. It just means you have enough points to see every competitive Grey Knights list bring 30 interceptors, because it was Matthew Green who won a GT. I was interviewing him, and he said that in this codex, you effectively have 2 sliders. You have a Dreadknight slider and an Interceptor slider, and you're basically picking which one you want to bring more of, and there's not a lot of ways you can bring the max of all of them, right? So it's because they're the standout winners. They just are. Even not in Swordbearers, a normal ass Dreadknight with no close combat weapon, no teleporter, the 155 points, and puts out the shooting of a Redemptor with 13 wounds, more movement, and a 4-up invul. Like, of course we're going to bring as many of those as we possibly can, as long as it's at all efficient.
I think the 4-up invul is what kind of pushed them over the top, honestly. Like, they had the 5-up invul last time, and they just died. Now with the 4-up invul, it's like 50%, they just don't take any damage. Like,
but I've also had games where, like 4-up is swinging, right? It's like 50-50. And I've had games where, like, my Dreadknights don't die, and then I've had games where they just evaporate.
Same, yeah.
Why did I even bring them? Because
I had a game where my Grandmaster with the 3++ died on turn 1. I didn't even get to use them. Like,
-1 damage is way more... is way more reliable, obviously, because it's just
100%.
straight up -1 damage. Yeah. But the invul does give you those situations where you get, like, I had one Grandmaster get shot by like 6 Melta. I think it was a squad of 3 Eradicators, so 6, and then it got shot by like a multi-Melta from a normal Dreadnought in one of the games I played, so 8 total Melta shots, and I failed like 1 of the invuls or something. And it's like, that's just not really the way it's supposed to go, but sometimes
when that happens,
like, it's a die game.
You look at the dice and you just say, I'm sorry. Like,
and
like there's nothing else to say.
Like, I laughed. It's like, that's insane, but also now you have to deal with my Dreadknight on your, like, on my turn, right? Because he's coming at you.
And now you're fucked.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I guess we can get it. Do you have lists? Like, do you have fun lists that you made recently?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So one of the things that I love here, I'll switch over to.
I have a list that I want to try out. This is the Lane Raider I was talking about.
Okay, yeah. I'll let you go first then. So right. I've got it up here.
All right, so I got Blades of Victory detachment. I have Tech Marine, Crow, and a Dreadknight. Dreadknight has everything on it. Vanguard aggression, so he gets to move up 6 inches. Crow's going to be in the Lane Raider, obviously.
Yeah, I think you have a new version, because my list that you gave me doesn't have Crow, but we'll just roll with it. It's fine.
I've made 12 lists in the past 3 days.
Yeah, no, I know, man. I'm always
going insane.
Yeah, I'm always making
so I really want to try this list out, but I was thinking like either Crow or like a normal Brotherhood champion, which I'm going to start running Brotherhood champions maybe more now, because I made a really cool looking one. So I really want to put it on the table.
Well, you know that first model syndrome, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I built it out. Like, I really want to play it.
It's just gonna die.
Yeah, he's just gonna die. But so Crow, Tech Marine, and Dreadnought. Now the strategy is there's a Land Raider. They have Foretelling of Locust, so you can redeploy your Dreadknights or whatever it may be. But the Tech Priest gives the 2-up to the Land Raider and then moves up with it, like basically runs behind the Land Raider to like repair it if it needs to. It also puts the Sanctuary on the Land Raider. So now the Land Raider's on the middle of the table with a 4-up invuln save and 2-up to hit with a multi-melta. So it has a multi-melta and it's a Crusader, so it has the guns on it.
The heavy side cannons or whatever? Is that what the Crusader has?
That's the Banisher, I think. Okay. The Crusader has the Hurricane Bolters. So it's got Hurricane Bolters, Assault Cannon, and I paid for the multi-melta. So turn 1, it's literally sitting in the middle of the table on a 4-up invuln save and a hitting on 2s with the shots. Then behind that, you have 2 Dreadknights walking up behind it. You have your Grandmaster right behind that, so the Dreadknights are rerolling, ones to hit. And then there's 15 Interceptors, all combat squatted, inside the Land Raider with Crow. So
can it carry 15 or 12?
It can carry 16.
Oh, what a weird number.
I know.
Okay.
So you have 15 Interceptors and Crow inside this fucking Land Raider in the middle of the table. And since you have the Blades of Victory, you have your Grandmaster up 6 inches further, and then another 9 because he moves. But then you also have a unit of 10 Interceptors moving up 6 at the beginning of the table, and then another 12 after that. So they're going to be charging turn 1. So turn 1, you have Interceptors charging, and then you have your Grandmaster putting out like some Psychic Powers and shots. You have 2 Dreadknights behind him putting out shots, and you have the Land Raider with 15 Interceptors inside it.
How are you charging turn 1 with Interceptors? Because if the...
you ready?
So if the transport... All right, let me just set this up, and maybe there's maybe you can knock me down.
There's 25 Interceptors.
Yeah, but like maybe you can knock me down here. The Land Raider moves up. Mm-hmm. When a transport moves, all of the embarked units count as having moved. You can't then disembark them until the next turn, because they lost the assault ramp rule. So you can't get out on the turn that they move. That's only impulsors now, and if you do, they still can't charge the turn that they get out, if I remember right.
Yep.
So how are you charging out of the Land Raider turn 1? Yep.
So what you do is, since the Vanguard aggression lets you move a core unit within 9 inches of you, 6 inches before the game, you have a unit of 10 Interceptors outside the Land Raider.
Oh,
you have 15 inside the Land Raider. You have Crow inside the Land Raider. The Grandmaster moves up 6. A unit of 10 move up 6. You can have 5. You can combat squad them if you want. But you have Grandmaster and a unit move up, and now the unit moves up another 12. So that's basically 18 inches across the table. They are at turn 1. They cast their Psychic Power to reroll the charges. And now turn 1, they have a, I believe, 7-inch charge. What's 18 minus 24? 6-inch charge?
What's 18 minus 24 is -6.
So you have a 6-inch charge turn 1 if they're at the edge of their deployment zone.
All right. So I think you actually missed something here, unless I misunderstood how you're describing this. So if I remember right, Land Raiders are actually core, and I'm actually checking that right now.
Are they? No.
Because the Less Raider... Are they not core? Oh, no. Because if they were core, then they could get a bunch...
Yeah, they're not core. That would be insane if the Land Raider can move up 16 inches. But
what I thought you meant was that you would pregame move it like 6 inches, and then get out. Which gave them an extra 9 inches of movement, but that isn't the way that works. They are not.
This will help your Land Raider survive because they have fucking 10 Interceptors attacking them turn 1. So they have to deal with them, and then they have to figure out what to do with the Land Raider. And then if the Land Raider survives, because it has a 4-up invuln save, or you could put the 4-up invuln save on the unit. So what I was thinking is, like, you can bring a Sword Bearer and put the 4-up invuln save psychic power on the Land Raider, and then put the Sanctuary on the Interceptors. So they both have 4-up invuln saves. That's an option.
Right.
But basically, they have 10 Interceptors, turn 1, charging. We're rolling the 6-inch charge. So they have 10 Interceptors. And then they have a Land Raider in the middle with 15 Interceptors and Crow. That next turn, they get out 15 inches. So the 15-inch fucking get out is insane. Yeah, and then charge. So that's how I got Sasha, is because he had no idea that they can like get out that far. So basically I killed like Gidamon or the main
from the
Grandmaster.
Rhino.
Yeah. So
I was like, you didn't take a Land Raider in that game, but now I remember that you had a Rhino.
Every time a unit got out of the Rhino, I replaced it with another unit. Like basically one unit got out, the other unit got in, and like it just kept swapping to get that extra 3-inch, movement. So it was so good.
That's actually one of the tricks that Stuart Traynor talks about with his all power armor list. Is he's like, no one shoots at a fucking Rhino unless it's the only thing they can possibly shoot at. Yeah. Or there's a threat overload inside the Rhino, right? Otherwise, nobody shoots at it. So what you can do is you move it up, and then on the next turn, your Interceptors, who are already super fast, climb out 3 inches away from it, because that's when they get out, right? And then they have a 12-inch move, so they effectively have a 15-inch move, like you just said. And then they get to shoot. But then what you can also do is with the Interceptors in the Psychic phase, and this was ruled in the FAQ, you can actually do this. So you can get out, shoot, get out your Psychic power for, what's the shoot and move in the Psychic phase? I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, etheric castigation. That's what it is. Anyway, so you can then shoot and move in your Psychic phase and get back to the Rhino.
How do you get back in during the Psychic phase? I thought it was at the end of the movement phase.
With the move, it allows you, and this is fact, like this is actually true in the Psychic phase. So you're not embarking on the same phase that you disembarked, so you're allowed to actually re-embark. So you can get out in your movement phase, and then you, in your Psychic phase, you shoot and you move back into the Rhino in your Psychic phase.
Wow.
So you can actually get the... Unfortunately, their shooting isn't... Like, I guess if you rolled around with a 10-man and use, like, Psychic ammunition on them, or Cybolt ammunition on you, they could actually be a big enough threat. Right?
And
so you got like 10 of them in there. They get out, they all shoot on their Psychic phase. But it's it's a warp chart of 7 casts. It can fail. Or it's 6 now? Or was it always?
I think it was 6 for this book.
Oh. Anyway, that's still like, it's a little less than 50% chance to get off with 1 cast. Like, you can't count on that, right? It's not like 4 or is it 5 for Psychic Ritual? Man, I am really showing my ass
5
here.
for Psychic Ritual.
I'm gonna blame this drink. There was 6 ounces of gin in this, so
I was playing Castigation with 7 forever, and I never got it off. And then I read the book, and I was like, "Holy shit, it's a 6!" So
maybe it was 7 and 8, and it went down to 6.
It might have been. I never used it though, but now I use it all the time, especially for engage in all fronts. Like, you don't have to shoot anything. You literally just move up 12, cast it, and then move up another 12 to get on engage, So it's like... Yeah. It's so good.
Oh, man. I love that fucking movement shenanigans we can do. Oh. Yeah. And then, so, Stuart told me about one that he does. So he runs, like, servitors. And so what he does is he has his Interceptors rush up on their movement phase, get on and... objective. For their Psychic phase, they cast Purifying Ritual. Another unit gates them back, and he's moved up some
servitors
to actually sit there. So on the opponent's turn, they have to shoot the servitors, who are worthless shaft that you don't give a shit about because they're 30 points for 4 models. Because if they don't, you get 5 points. So they have to shoot them, which pisses off your opponent. And it's just like, I think that's great. That is the most trolly thing. You rush up, cast, you get your points, or your if it's your like a third cast, you get 4 points. It's amazing. So they rush up, cast, and then they just gate the fuck out of there. And then it's just four like so robot awesome. Morons standing on the objective. And they have to do something about it. They can't leave them there.
So what I loved about that is the yo-yo effect with gate. Like if you I've been running Blades of Victory for a while now, and I've been running like if I run 5 dreads, it'll be the 2 Grandmasters. So the 1 Grandmaster has Gem of Anaktu, which gives you +2 to cast. He has the Blades of Victory, so he gets the extra 6-inch move in the beginning of the turn. So basically he can move up 6 inches and then move up 9 inches and then use the 6-inch extend to make your 18-inch Empiric Amplification go off. So basically you have such a huge threat range and so many different angles to get off Empiric Amplification and only needing a 5 to cast it. But you roll 3 dice if you really need to. So basically you're spending like 1 CP to extend the range, 1 CP to roll 3 dice, and then 1 CP to roll 2 powers. 3 CP though, you're starting at 9, you get up to 10. Or let's say you start at 7, you get up to 8. You have divination, you get up to 9, so you're back down to 6. So it's not a huge investment, but you're getting.
It is though, because in like turn 2, 3, 4, 2 sometimes, but like 3, 4 for sure. You gotta have 2 at least sitting around just to like interrupt combat. And if you don't have that, your opponent knows that and can like capitalize on it. So even if you don't want to interrupt, you kind of have to have that mind game of like having the 2 CP just in case. So like
yes, I agree. Yeah. But with this strat, you're getting off Empiric Amplification with your other dreads to shoot whatever the biggest threat is on the other side of the table, and you get a Vortex of Doom off on whatever you want to, like the closest probably physical threat that you have. So both of them are reliably going to go off, and then you have your other Grandmaster behind you gate your dude that's like really close to the other team away, and you don't really need to cast the extra 6 inches if they're already on the edge. So Gazgul for the orcs.
Yeah, with his 3 damage per phase thing.
Yeah, I think it's 4 for him. It's 3 for the Necrons, but it's 4 for him. So he has 12 wounds. So what you do is, I did the same thing. I walked up. I then moved up 9. I was within 12. I had the Gem of Anaktu, so basically I didn't need the extra CP to extend the range. I casted Empiric Amplification, and then I casted Vortex of Doom. I did my whatever wounds on the psychic phase. So he did his 4 wounds. And then my shooting phase, I did whatever because I shot him. And then my charge phase, I had an interceptor squad charge Gazgul and killed him. Turn 1, no wah.
Yeah. So I did
How do you just take away Gazgul turn 1 and don't give the fucking player a wah with Great Knights?
So I actually did the exact same thing, except it was with a Dreadnought, a Dreadnought, and I used Thundering Stride, that strat where you do you do mortal wounds in the charge phase. And so I moved up, I smote him, I did 3 or something. Anyway, I did just enough to like actually kill him in 1 turn. So I I smote him, I think, or maybe it was Vortex, I don't remember, or like 2. Anyway, in 1 turn on a long edge, I actually moved up, actually did all that stuff, charged, and I'm like, oh, I guess we don't get a fight phase because I just killed Gaz in the charge phase. And he's like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. Necron players think the same way. They're like, oh, my Satans are going to live forever. No, not against Grey Knights. Grey Knights have so many ways to get around it.
It's per phase, right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, perfect. Because I can do... I got 3 phases I can do damage in.
Yeah, exactly.
And 4
pretty
phases.
Reliably too. Yeah.
Because I got psychic, I got shooting, I got charge, and I got fight phase. I can do it all. Like, let's play.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we got way off topic, but like the list with the Land Raider, like having 15 interceptors in it in the middle of the table, like you're not gonna. Hopefully, you don't kill it on a 4-up invuln save with a tech priest right behind it, because there's 3 dreads around it. Like there's 3 dreadknights, so you're gonna shoot the dreadknights, you're gonna shoot the lane raider, and then the interceptors are in front doing their damage. Even if you want to throw 5 in turn 1, like you combat squad, throw 5 in turn 1. Now they have to deal with 5 interceptors in their front squad. If there's vehicles, you already tagged the vehicles. Like there's so much craziness going on turn 1. Like the land raider should survive. So then turn 2, if it survives, you're getting out 15 inches. You have 15 more fucking interceptors at you.
Yeah, you're kind of threat overloading them, where even though they know the land raider has +1 to hit, right? And then they also know it has, hopefully, a 4-up invul. Like, maybe you fuck up the cast or whatever, but like, hopefully it does, right? And then they're like, oh, but there's 3 Dreadknights behind it. I know the Dreadknights throw out a lot of shooting, and they're good in combat, so I have to deal with the Dreadknights first. But if they don't fire at your Land Raider, then it's like, surprise! Here's Crow, who is a fucking monster. If you can get him into combat, and your opponent says, I attack Crow, you're like, excellent.
It's like you don't even care about interrupting with Crow, because it's like you interrupt with another unit, Crow dies, he still attacks. So it's like
he fights on death, so he technically actually fights before the person that killed him is done fighting.
And and what about like he goes first if he's in combat with a character as well, which I forgot about. So he fights first if he's fighting a character.
Yeah, which is pretty much just a free interrupt for most things, and it will turn off fight last, which is kind of nice in its own way. But so Shazzy is saying that with the meta right now, I don't think a land raider can survive. But like I just said, I think that it's the threat overload. Like if you have 3 Dreadknights and 3 units of 5 interceptors, up in their face turn 1, then it's like, well, what do you target? Do you target? Because if you don't target the Dreadknights, they're gonna shoot you. They're gonna like fire again on their next turn. If you don't target the interceptors, they're gonna be in your grill, and they're basically on the charge. They're not quite Blade Guard, but they're almost Blade Guard. But they're way faster. And if you don't shoot at the Land Raider, then you know that you have to deal with all those 15 interceptors on their next turn anyway. So it's kind of like the Land Raider gets to live through being the least dangerous opponent in that turn. Not that it's not dangerous later, but it's the least dangerous turn in that turn. So they're going to fire and charge other stuff, hopefully. And if they don't, then hell, you still have 3 Dreadknights and 15 interceptors out there. So
can you I don't know. There's a couple different options. It's like if your Land Raider doesn't have a target turn 1, like because it moves 10, shoots 24 at the multi-gun. So like if it doesn't have a target turn 1, you don't need to put the +2 on it. You could put the +2 on the Grandmaster, you could put the +2 on the Dreadknight, shunt the Dreadknight up, put it into combat or range of something else. So like it doesn't have to go on Land Raider. But at least the Tech Priest is right behind the Land Raider, so that way it can repair it if it does get hurt. You have the smoke screen if it does shoot the Land Raider, so it's -1 to hit.
That's a good point.
You have the frag assault thing, so it takes D3 mortal wounds if they choose that, or they take +1 damage or something. There's like some weird strat that the Land Raiders have, like frag assault missiles. So if you charge or the Land Raider is within a certain amount of range, you can spend a CP so that it can, the opponent has to choose whether it suffers D3 mortal wounds or it has to take cover, which then anything attacking that unit suffers +1 to wound. So there's a couple different options you can do with the Land Raider. And it's just fucking so big that if you have a centerpiece in the middle of the table and you just turn it, they can't get past it. Yeah. So literally you're just blocking off the center objective for stranglehold, for the 3, that you get CP in the middle, or 3 points you get in the middle for holding it. So it can do a lot.
Yeah,
I think.
So Shazzy's comeback is that horde armies like orcs can just charge the Land Raider, and they don't have to kill it as long as they can box it in. You can't get out. There is the emergency disembark strat, which is awful, and you never want to have to use it. But also, in a horde army, you can just not move it up that far, because what's climbing out are interceptors. They already move really far.
So if you're playing a hordes army, you don't. You just don't do what I just said. Like, first off, how far can the horde army move and charge? Can they move, run, and charge? That's the question you're asking your opponent. Because if they can, then you keep the Land Raider far back enough that they don't get charged. But it also has hurricane bolters on it, so the horde army doesn't want to have their horde shot by fucking 24 hurricane bolter shots.
Plus whatever other gun is on there, but yeah.
But it's like there's so many shots coming out of the Land Raider into the horde army. The horde army is just going to die. You have the 24 shots from the 36 shots from the Dreadknights. You have there's so many shots from the horde army. So yes, if you do get surrounded by a Land Raider, it's not a good time. But don't get your Land Raider surrounded by the horde army. I think that's the best.
Another thing I want to point out is that the Cybolt ammunition strat actually does work on both the Storm Raven and the Land Raider.
100%.
So you can actually give it +1 to hit, have it roll up, spend 1 CP. It is only one model, so it is only 1 CP, and then you can have it fire 24 times, auto wounding on 6s with an additional AP, which is not game changing, but for 1 CP it's like, hey, fuck you, deal with this. It's just a little more of a pain in the ass. I think that's great.
Yeah, I've done that so many times with my Land Raider, or not my Storm Raven, because 1 CP is so good for that many shots. I don't try and do 2 CP for a 10-man unit. I usually run 5-man units, but you run your interceptors up and you spend 1 CP for Cybolt ammunition, shoot the hell out of whatever the hell is in front of it, and then charge the character. It's such a good strat, especially on vehicles.
Yeah, it's a great. It was like a must-use strat every game in 8th. Yes, it's not 100%. Now, but yeah. And so I think that we got down this rabbit hole. If you're done talking about this list, I think the question originally was, what kind of list do you want to run but aren't good right now? And I have my own.
Tell me the list you were going to run.
Yeah, so I'm going to switch over on the camera now to my list. So I love the idea of marching up the field and being invulnerable effectively and unkillable. So this is my basic idea of trying to make Dark Angels but Grey Knights. It doesn't do it as well, but here's my idea, and I want to play this. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's competitive, but I think it would be fun. Well, so I've got Drago.
Now is not competitive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I've got a patrol and a vanguard. The patrol is preservers. In there I stuck Kaldor Drago because he doesn't really care which detachment he's in. He gives re-rolls to everybody. I have 10 Terminators in this, and an Apothecary. That's the entire patrol. That's it. So the idea is they walk up the field with a 5-up. Feel no pain. Kind of nestle the Apothecary in between it. The Apothecary also has the Heroism's Favor, Wisdom of the Prognosticars upgrade, so the Terminator squad will always have fight first. Mm-hmm. They can cast Hammerhand on each other if they want. For 1 CP more, they can also do their Brotherhood power, so you can keep these guys kind of buffed, and it's don't charge me. I was thinking about maybe throwing in a couple Incinerators in this unit because it's free, so why not? Which makes it more I don't want to charge you. But that's that. And then I have a Rapier's Vanguard, which I have thrown the Mortal Wounds, Librarian, and Crow. A Paladin squad of 5 dudes. 2 Purifier squads with incinerators. I've got 4 servitors in there to just be annoying. 20 interceptors, because why wouldn't you? And then 1 rhino. I don't think this is a good list. I think this would be a really fun list to play for like a weekend against my friends. I think Dark Angels do this list better because they're fucking Dark Angels. So their Terminators have like permanent transhuman and all that, right? But I think this would be really fun. You got some like servitors to do action, monkey, raise the banners, whatever. You got purifiers marching up, and if they don't deal with them, they're like -1 damage. If they're in cover and the shadows, they're actually hard to shift. They've got their, purifying flame. So between the 2 purifier squads and Crow, I have 3 purifying flame casts per turn. Got a bunch of smites. The Paladins I also gave Hammerhand because if they're like gonna charge, it's 4 attacks per guy and 5 for the Paragon, so you're gonna eat 25 attacks on the charge, or 21 on the charge. So it's just like you don't want to be in combat with any of these. Now, obviously, you can ignore the Terminator brick. It's 10 of them. Their shooting isn't that good. I mean, 10 Stormbolters isn't nothing, but it's not like game-changing amount, right? Like, you can just ignore it. But I think this will be a really fun list. Again, I don't think it's good. I do not think you'll win a GT with this list.
And the question is like, what do you do against armor? Like that's what I always go back to is like, we have Psycans you could put on the Terminators, but they suck. It's like strength 7, -1 to shoot them because heavy weapons. But then you got to think about, all right, can I get into melee? How many Demon Hammers do you have on the Paladin squad? Or the Terminator squad?
The thing is, right now I have none of each, but I do have Hammerhand on both, which was my thought.
Yeah.
Right? Like, again, you're going to wound on 5s, that sucks, but you're going to reroll all wounds, so, like, hey, that should actually double your amount of wound output, so it's almost like wounding on 4s or 3s. Statistically, it's like wounding on 4s, I think. So it's not terrible, but is it as good as... Yeah, is it as good as Demon Hammers? And the thing about Death Guard, Dark Angels, is that with their permanent transhuman, it's like, how do you fucking actually shift these things? It doesn't matter what you shoot at them. Yeah. Like, it doesn't. They're toughness 4s. If you shoot them with auto bolt rifles, guess what? You're wounding on 4s. They're also permanently transhumans. So if you shoot them with fucking plasma and las cannons, guess what? You're wounding them on 4s. It doesn't matter. And we can't do that. It's just not a thing we like. So this is me trying to shoehorn Grey Knights into a Dark Angels playstyle, and it just we can't do it. Like, I know that. But if I was playing with my friends in my garage, I think this would be fun.
Yeah. What? Everybody else's transhumans 1, ours is 2, because we're true silver armor.
Yeah.
How's that fair?
I've got a whole list of things that annoy me, and that's actually what I like. I called it was things that annoy me. Like, why is our leadership is 1 too low across the fucking board?
Yeah, and we're the best of the best of the best. How the fuck does that make sense?
Except for Adeptus, or except for Custodes, Grey Knights are the elite of the elite. They're all psychers. They've gone through a trial that makes like normal Space Marines look, tame, right? Yeah. They're like the Emperor's gene seed. Why is our leadership 7 and 8 and 8 and 9? If I look at my Death Watch Terminator squad, which I realize like Death Watch is this thing, they're like the special forces of Space Marines. They're all they draw like only the greatest veterans from every chapter and whatever. So they're 8 and 9 for everything. Or almost everything.
1 out of 1,000 Psychers kids live or something?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. So then it's like, well, why aren't Grey Knights 8 and 9? And I know it doesn't come up that often, but like every now and then you get a dicey, fucking morale roll, or
my guys
like
have run so many times.
or Drukhari rush after you and they slap you with their fucking incubi and they're like, ha, I won because you're one less leadership. It's just like, no. They should barely even acknowledge your existence. You're just a bunch of, like, you're a 45-point incubi unit. What does a 220-point Terminator unit care about you? Get out of here. But,
my God. So, do you have the pally list that I sent you with 2 Dreadknights, Drago, Champion, Pallies, Dreadnought?
I don't think I do. I don't think you actually sent that one to me.
Like I said, there's too many.
I'm scrolling very fast, but nope, I don't actually see it in our last few days of weekend.
The only 2 HQs you have is Drago. Now again, this is kind of going after the Black Templar. So I'm thinking of a Black Templar list, and what they do is they sit at the center of the table with their apothecary and their chaplain and all their buffs, and they just don't move. Like, that is their job. They have the big dreads in the back just shooting shit. They have all the little troops running around, and that's the Black Templar list. So I'm like, all right, well, let's make a Grey Knight Black Templar list. So we did Drago, who's their Grandmaster. He has Vortex of Doom and Peric Amplification, but basically he buffs up the Paladins, so he makes them reroll everything. He's just awesome for that. So he also gives reroll 1s to hit against the Dreadknights if they're by. And then you have a Brotherhood Champion, because I said I really want to run it because I made him and he looks awesome. So Brotherhood Champion has Warp Shaping, Cantu of Embrace, which is awesome. It's -1 damage.
Yes. Oh my God, that is a good relic. I think it is. It's a 4-up versus all mortal wounds too, and then it's -1 damage.
Yeah. He also has Unyielding Anvil, so now the Paladins in the middle of the table are OBSEC, same with all the characters. Or Hammer of Righteous, which is really good for a Brotherhood Champion. It's kind of like Crow, +1 to wound in melee. He's got the Servant of Throne. So basically this little dude has a 3++, Cantu of Embrace, Hammer of Righteous, gets the fight on death. He's a little tank. Sucks he only has 5 wounds though. 3 strike squads
because he's in power armor.
3 strike squads because strike squads, and then we have the apothecary, which has Foretelling of Locust, so you can redeploy up to 3 units. He's the one that gives Sanctuary. I always thought of like apothecary with Sanctuary, like that just makes sense because he's the one buffing and healing the unit. Then you have the Dreadnought. Now I think I was talking to you about this, where the Dreadnought lets the Pallies reroll 1s to wound because they're core. So anything within 6 inches of them, which is including the Dreadknights and the Paladins, they get to reroll 1s to wound. So you spend 1 CP. Everything within 6 inches of the Dreadnought gets to reroll 1s to wound. And Drago already lets them reroll everything to hit anyway. So basically everything in the Paladin unit is always hitting. And you have it walking up in that little block, right? So the Dreadnought has the multi-melta when you need it, and then it has the close combat weapon. So if anything's in the middle, he's going to be able to just smash. Paladin Ancient, he gives the +1 attack to the Paladin unit. He also gives them plus reroll something. Like, he buffs up a Paladin unit in the command phase.
So the way that it, I remember the Ancients working is they give 1 more attack. I gave mine. Ooh, okay. Wow. Now they're Death Watch.
Leadership 10.
Veterans. No, they're. Oh, that's right. They are 10 because they're Paladins. Yeah. So Paladins and Purifiers are all leadership 9 and 8. So leadership 10. So they're all Necrons. They're all
add 1 to the hit roll. That's what it does.
Uncaring machines.
So he adds 1 to the hit roll. So now you're they have how many hammers?
They're already hitting on 2s in combat.
but hammers. So
Right.
1, 2.
Now they're still hitting on
There's
twos.
four hammers still hitting on 2s.
Yep.
And then there's a warding staff in there in case the sanctuary doesn't go off. So at least you still have the 4 up and won't save to shooting. But there's 4 hammers in the paladin squad. 2 side cannons, because we're testing out the side cannons because they get to reroll everything because of Drago. And they reroll 1s to wound. So basically you're -1 or -2 with the side cannons, 2 damage. Rerolling 1s to wound because of the Dreadnought, and
It's
rerolling all the hits because of Drago. They have Ethereal Castigation, I'm thinking, because they can move out, shoot, and then hide, or move up, shoot, and then move up more to get closer to the center, or at least on like an objective or something. And they have Armor Resilience, so you can spend 1 CP if you need to move and shoot and move again, or they can just do Armor Resilience for the +1. So Armor Resilience and Ethereal Castigation.
So why not drop the Dreadnought and just give them Hammer Hand? And that way they're rerolling all wounds. They don't need the Dreadnought. You can spend 1 CP to have them cast Armor Resilience. So they've always got that. So they're rerolling all hits, hitting on 2s, rerolling all wounds, like wounding on 3s or 2s because they have hammers.
The Dreadnought helps with shooting as well with the Dreadknights. So Dreadknights get to reroll 1s to wound. Paladins and Dreadknights, because I have 2 Dreadknights in the list as well. So there's 2 Dreadknights behind everybody. So everything within 6 inches gets to reroll 1s to wound in melee and shooting with the Dreadnought.
Okay. That's a pretty good bubble. Although you're really running everything right up the middle, aren't you? You're like
that's the Black Templar way.
Yeah. Except you don't have the D3. What is it? D3 +3 rerollable advance. What the? They are just so reliable on the advance.
Yes, 100%. But they have a Ethereal Castigation, so they can move up, shoot, and move up again.
But then they can't charge. Although I guess neither can.
If you're going to charge, anything that it charges dies. Yeah, anything that it charges dies anyway. So I'm just thinking turn 1, you're in the center of the table, or you're behind cover. So basically you move up, shoot, and then move like 3 inches this way, and now you're behind cover, but they can't shoot your characters because they're still within 3 inches of something else. So who cares if the characters are out in the open? The Paladins are closest unit, behind cover, can't get shot.
I actually got at the RTT that I went to. So, like, remember, I've been to 1 tournament ever, but the RTT I was
that
at.
One Last Blade?
It was What's that?
Was that with the One Last Blade guy?
Yeah.
I saw that video.
Yeah, he drove down. Because I live in Portland and he lives in Seattle, which is only like a 3-hour drive, so it's not that bad.
Only.
Anyway, well, it's not that bad. Like, it really isn't, right? I don't know. I don't think it's that bad. Like, throw on some podcasts and like zone out and just drive up I-5. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was fighting Black Templars. He had 8 or 7 of these buffed up Terminators in my grill. He left Halbrecht laying out in the open, or at least I thought, and so I was like, I'm gonna blast him and fucking kill your warlord. It's like, you can't. I said, explain how. Because I was like, how can I not? The Terminator, so like, I had a Dreadnought, and he had the Terminators engaged with some other thing here, and then Halbrecht was down here. And so because the Terminators between me and Halbrecht, by the ruling of the way Lookout Sir works, and I actually called over a TO because I was like, that's nuts. But it is actually the way that Lookout Sir works, is if there is another closest unit, it does not say closest eligible unit, it says closest unit, then they are actually defended.
Somebody else, though? Was Halbrecht within 3 inches of another
there was
model?
There was a Redemptor like 2 inches behind Halbrecht.
Yes,
so he was technically still within. Yeah.
Stupid.
And I was like, but why? And the TO's like, sorry, man, that's the way it works. It's like, all right.
I did the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, the game was over by then. By by then anyway. Like, he had 8 buffed up Terminators in my deployment zone, so the game was over anyway. But like, I was like, but he's standing in the middle of the field with nothing near him. Nothing. It doesn't make sense. And the Redemptor is behind him.
Yep, that's the biggest thing that I learned at the second tournament I did. I even like said in one of my videos where my Storm Raven was aiming at a fucking Chaos Demon Prince, and it was like standing next to really cheap unit of chicks in the back, and it's literally just aiming at it. But since my Storm Raven was right next to a unit in melee, I couldn't shoot at the Demon Prince. I had to shoot at the unit in melee, which I couldn't. So basically, my Storm Raven just sat there for a turn, not shooting anything.
That's
this is the dumbest thing I've ever fucking heard.
Yeah, I think my Dreadnought ended up having to like fire into a Tannhauser's Bone buff to shit fucking Blade Guard. So it did nothing. It just bounced off of their chest, you know?
So that's the thing is, like, if you have Ethereal Castigation, you're still within like 3 inches of all your characters, but they're behind cover, so they can't shoot them, and they can't shoot the characters because of how the fucking Lookout Sir works. So it's like, maybe it's good. I don't fucking know.
So
I haven't run it yet. I'm gonna run it though soon. And then, and then the end of the list is gonna be 15 Interceptors. So just running around getting zones, and then 2 Dreadknights, and that's it. So big blob in the middle, very very tanky, and a bunch of shit running around. That's the goal.
So Joshua Martin is asking, does that mean that they can be further than 3 inches away? So maybe I didn't explain it very well. So I had a Dreadnought firing at Halbrecht. Between Halbrecht and the Dreadnought was a Terminator squad of the enemy, engaged with some other unit of mine. So they were in melee and therefore untargetable by ranged. But Halbrecht had behind him by about 2 inches a Redemptor Dread, which is a vehicle. So he was still protected by Lookout Sir because I couldn't... The closest target, which is the way Lookout Sir is worded, not closest eligible target. So I could not actually fire at his Warlord because there was another unit that I couldn't shoot at between me and the unit that I wanted to shoot at, which is fucking ridiculous, but that's the way 40k works sometimes.
Exactly. So that is just, that's dumb. Like, you literally have to be the closest unit to a character to basically shoot at them. Or they don't have anything within 3 inches, and then you can shoot them.
Yeah, so if the Redemptor hadn't been there, he would have been shootable, and if the Terminators hadn't been there, he would have been shootable. But because they were both there, he was not actually shootable. Exactly. It was really bizarre, and that's why I was like, I want to talk to a TO, because this seems a little weird to me.
I did the same thing. Oh my god. So that list actually has 10 CP. So starting with a lot.
Yeah, that is, oh my god, that is a thing that I miss. Like, I've been so maybe we should roll into our meta lists and what we're running right now, like if we're trying to actually win. So like what I'm running right now is I have a Patrol of Prescient Brethren and a is it Outrider? Or is it Vanguard? I think it's Outrider. No, a Spearhead. That's right, a Spearhead of Sword Brethren. So I'm effectively running 5 Dreadknights, 2 Tech Marines, 1 Strike Squad, 3 squads of Servitors, and 25 Interceptors. It's my whole army. So my Dreadnought shooting is insane. The non-grandmasters actually shoot better than the grandmasters because they're core. So they get to hit on 2s. They get reroll 1s from the grandmasters, or from one of the grandmasters. So they're hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, where the grandmasters are just hitting on 2s. And yes, the Prescient Brethren one can pop 1 CP and then reroll 1s to hit and 1s to wound, which of course I do. But it basically means that I can awaken 2 of them. My Tech Marines can stay back. My Servitors are raising banners. I have some shaft stuff doing Purifying Ritual and moving up. Obviously not the Servitors because they cannot cast, but like it actually makes it so like I can kind of sit. So between Psychic Ritual, Banners, and Stranglehold, usually, I can kind of just sit on my side of the board, and as long as I can hold 3 and blast you off of another one, I'm getting 15 a turn for primary and secondary, and I never have to really engage you unless you have, like, PBCs or something, where I have to go, like, I have to do something, but it means like I can be very passive, not super passive, like not Dark Angels passive, but I can be pretty passive, which is nice because that's less shit for me to remember. And as a newer player, I think that's important because, you know, it's like as long as I hold this corner of the board with my 3 in it, I'm good. You know?
That's like kind of the standard, you know, Grey Knight thing is like if, and I just started taking Stranglehold recently. I didn't know it was like so easy to do, especially at the end of your turn if you hold it. So that's, and I started playing very passive recently. I always used to like back in the old editions, you just have to table the opponent or kill everything on the other side of the table. So every single list I made just like went for it. Now I'm taking the more laid back approach where you're just like, all right, I'm going to keep everything in a building. You can't see it. Come at me, bro. Like that's the strategy that I've been doing, and it's been working out really, really well lately. So like with you, if you control the 3 objectives, it's basically you win. Like the opponent's not really going to take you off it, and if they do, then you have shit to just take it off whatever just took it off it. You know, the only thing is like if you face a Black Templar player, they're going to be controlling that center objective. So how do I get to the other edge or the other side of the table without missing on the center objective? Because that's I think the hardest opponent I have right now is probably Black Templar. Like they're in our meta a lot.
No, I agree that they are probably the closest that the meta has right now to a direct counter to Grey Knights.
And I did lose to Clowns because I didn't get a full 5 turns in, and I played super slow because I didn't know the army.
Oh my god. So did you not... Alright, so one of the things that impressed me about the tournament that I went to is they flat out said, like, don't play any fucking half turns. They straight up said, like, don't do that. That's not okay.
What do you mean?
So, like... Turn? So, like, if I go first, okay, and I'm playing you, and then we get down to the top of turn 4, I get my turn 4 and you don't get your turn 4. That is a half turn. You did not get to react. I got to play 20 or 33% more than you did. I got to play a whole nother turn. So I got to attack you, grab objectives, get my secondaries, all that shit. And you didn't. So that gives me a natural advantage, right? Is that like, you know, I got 4 turns and you got 3. And then we had to call it for time. And that's not tournaments. That's not cool.
I ask is if we start the turn, do we finish the turn? And most tournaments I go to, they say yes. So if you start turn 5 and there's like, you know, 30 plus minutes left, then you can finish turn 5. Sure. So we always finish out that turn because it was always like a 15-minute time frame between both matches. So most of the tournaments around us are pretty lenient with that. Like they want to make sure everybody's pretty equal. But because
what's the point if you're not gonna be? It's a tournament.
Like
right?
I feel bad. Yeah, it's stupid. So the last guy I played, I literally, if we would have played on clock, I would have clocked out like instantly. I know that I would have clocked out because I just took so long with like asking questions and figuring out where I'm going to shunt to and measuring distances. Like that was probably the slowest I've ever played in my life, and I was super scared because this was a very very good opponent, and I never played clowns. Like the Eldar, what are the clowns called?
The Harlequins.
Yes, the Harlequins. They just do so much shit that just break the rules that like you're just like, all right, can I do this? And they're like, nope. I'm like,
I'm 6 inches away than I actually am. I ignore all terrain when I move.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. So I basically, we only got to turn 3, and we had to talk out the last 2 turns, and it wasn't a good experience because it was guessing at that point. There's so much dice roll that would have or wouldn't have happened that we don't know. So basically I gave him it because again, I would have like clocked either way. But we had to talk out the last 2 turns, and it's so weird to talk out a turn because you think one way, like in your mind, oh no, I would have done this, this, and this, and you probably would have died. And they think in their mind, oh, well, I would have done this, this, and this, and you would have died. So it's like you're both guessing what the last 2 turns would have been, and we don't know because the dice was never rolled. So it was such a weird turnout, but again, I couldn't argue because I was the one that made that mistake. Now, if he was the one that slow played, 100%, I'd be like, hey, bro, like, I had this. Like, there's no way you could have beat me. But since I was the one that slow played, and he was a very good player, he basically had it, you know? So it was weird talking at the last 2 turns. 100%.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've never had a weird... I mean, it's weird, yes, but I've never had it be like, oh, this is so bizarre that I can't ever see that actually happening that way. Like, because when I talk things out with my opponents, usually it's like I already know I'm getting my ass kicked or I am kicking ass. So when I'm like, no, like look at the board state. I've got these units here and here. I would, move up 12 inches, make a 3-inch charge. I have, strength 6. You're like toughness 3. I would wipe that whole unit. I would hold that. That would give me like 15 points. Blah blah blah. Yeah. I don't know. It's like it's usually you can just talk it out like that, where you're like, no, like logically, let's discuss this, right?
But since it's not, turn 3,
I need to have a power to get off to have that happen. It's like my data sheet is 3 attacks.
Yep. So since it was only turn 3, we still had a lot left on the table. So it was like we both had almost half of our army. I still had 3 Dreadknights. He had 2 tanks and a bunch of like characters. So it was like we both had a lot of shit. All right, so here was first turn.
Yeah,
first turn, I moved up, kept all my Dreadknights back. Nothing happened. That literally was turn 1.
Yep.
And we still only made it to turn fucking 3. We still only made it to turn 3. Like that's how bad I was at like playing the game.
Twins are gnarly,
it was
man.
So weird. I just wasn't used to it. It was weird. So I was like, hey, bro, you got it. I took 3rd. I was like, whatever. I don't care.
Harlequins are gnarly, dude.
They're awesome. They do so much cool
flip
shit.
Belts and fusion pistols and open top transports and
haywire
being 6 inches away.
Or whatever the fuck they're called.
Yeah. They're really good.
They destroy Dreadknights. They murder Dreadknights.
I don't know if you remember, but like until a lot of the new 9th ed codexes came out, like Quins were still top of the fucking pile.
Yeah,
or not
still scary.
Not top, but like very good. Like Quins and Sisters were doing very good for a long time into the 9th ed meta. Like Space Marines, Necrons, what was it? Death Guard. It wasn't until Drukhari and Admech came out that they were actually doing very well. Both of those 8th ed armies. So,
and the guy was very good. We like exchanged numbers, so I'm going to play him again. But yeah, he was a cool guy. Now that I see the army, I would totally 100% play again and just like fucking run at the army. Like here's some dreads, here's some interceptors. If you can kill me, you win. If not, I
deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was fun. Any other lists you guys playing around?
So right now, no. I'm actually getting coaching from Ben Sherwin, so I'm trying not to change up my tournament list very much. I'm trying to just get like consistent games in, and reps on reps on reps on reps to try to like learn the army and learn how it plays. I'm not changing a whole lot. When the Codex first dropped, which was August 14th, and I know that because it was my birthday, we did a live stream game, and I was trying out a whole bunch of stuff. So I had like Stormraven in there, and I had a Purgational Squad with Flamers, and I had a bunch of Terminators, and I think I had some Paladins and stuff. That list was awful. I was playing my friend who plays Drukhari, and I was like, hey man, God. I want to let you know, like straight up, this is going to be a streamed game. I'm going to be bringing the kitchen sink. This is not a good list. Can you go ahead and throw together, like not a very good list? And he's like, okay man, I'll try. That afternoon, he messages me like, dude, I don't know how to make a bad Drukhari list. He's like, I fucking can't. He's like, yeah, I guess I could pick like some really bad cults and whatever and like come after you. But even so, my data sheets are good. My strat support is good. And I just don't know how to make a bad list. So yeah, I mean, he had like a lot of Trueborn and stuff that stayed in Raiders, and I was just like, I can't. You can't do it. I can't kill you.
Especially if like you just fucking read the codex and you don't know like anything that it does. Because that's how it was. I spent the first couple games like 4 or 5 hours playing a game. It was so fucking long.
No, I actually remember I had a Purgation Squad drop down out of Deep Strike, which I was like, yay, I don't have to spend CP to let them do this now. How cool is that? And they like flamed and killed a bunch of incubi, and I cast Smite, I perils, I killed off one of my own models, and then it was someone on the stream is like, you get to feel no pain against mortals now. And I'm like, oh yeah, I get to feel no pain, or I feel no pain against mortals now.
Do you know what I ended up?
What?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I didn't hear you.
I just learned that Storm Ravens and Land Raiders, or vehicles in general, have a 5-up feel no pain, no mortal wounds.
Yep. It's all Grey Knights units.
Didn't know that. I thought it was just Psychers. So,
no, it's all Grey Knight units. Yeah.
I played a Thousand Suns player who smited the shit out of my Storm Raven, and it died because I was like, oh, I can't get any mortal wounds to it. So now I want to play the Land Raider and the Storm Raven again because now I know that it has fucking a 5-up feel no pain, no mortal wounds.
Well, that's why
I want to play it.
Do you remember how like Sisters Rhinos can just deny?
Yeah.
It's just a Rhino, but they have that little like that keyword that lets them do their like order like deny on a 6 or whatever.
Yep.
Or a 5 if they're martyred lady or whatever. I don't remember. Anyway, like their rhinos can do that. So if you're within 24 inches or whatever or 12 inches of a rhino, they can just deny you.
Yep.
Which you don't expect, but
yeah, that makes sense.
It's the same thing. So what else? What else is on the list?
So basically talked about best list in the meta, favorite units, Grey Knights, new lists, nerf. Oh, so have you tested out the new missions at all?
I have not. No,
So what? Last tournament I was at, we got to test out 2 out of 3 of the new missions, and I played it. And what they changed was every mission now has a 4th secondary.
Basically,
so like the main mission secondary you get to get points for, and they reduced the main 5, 10, 15 points for the primary to 4, 8, 12. Mm-hmm. But at least you get that secondary for another 3 points. Right. So it made the game so much closer and more. You have to pay attention to who has how many points and whatnot, and it made it so much more enjoyable to know that you're not going to be down just because you lost the primary. Like, it sucks when you get 5 points on the primary and you're like, well, this game's over. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to come back from that. So now
that's
if you
true.
only get, 4 or 8 points, but there's still secondary that you can get points for, like an additional secondary, it made things so much more, I would say, enjoyable and more like, all right, I have to actually do shit now. And knowing which 3 secondaries you should pick going into these new tournaments coming up 2022 is going to be so important. Because
Well, it always
to only pick
was.
2.
Like picking your secondaries was always like a mini game within the game. Like it was its own meta within the meta. You had to know.
Yeah.
I've lost games that I was handily winning, and I've lost because one of my 3 choices was terrible for secondary. And it's only if even one of the 3 is a bad choice, you can lose that fucking game.
And now it's not going to be as impactful because of that, because you still get 3 points. Like, one of them is if you kill a unit, you get 1 point, up to 3 points. So it's almost like a mini grind them down. And if you take grind them down with that, you get 6 points. So it's like you're playing. Like, I would pick a list specifically just for secondaries. Like, all right, these are my 3 secondaries every single time, unless there's one that stands out that, like, I would always pick, but like I would always make a list now with these 3 secondaries 100% every single time, because you always get additional secondary on top of that.
Sure. I mean, that's the way most people make their lists anyway.
There's always one that I don't know.
Right, but I mean, that's kind of the way that the meta is right now, where it's like you pick for 2. Like for me, right? My list is built for banners and Psychic Ritual, and typically I'm assuming Stranglehold. But what that allows me is on a 4 objective mission, like say the Scouring, which is the worst mission in the game, I don't have to pick Stranglehold. I can be like, okay, well, they have a lot of vehicles, I'll bring them down, or they have a lot of, characters, I'll take Assassinate. Like against Black Templar, like, what's their chaplain with the retinue? He's got like 2 dudes that follow him around, Grimwald or whatever the fuck his name is.
I've never played that guy. Nobody takes him.
Anyway, if I remember right, his retinue also counts as a character. So if you kill him and his 2 dudes, that's 9 points for Assassinate. And if he's the warlord, it's 10 points.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, usually if they bring them, they take something with bodyguard too, so, it's very hard to actually kill him. But anyway, you see, my point is that on a 5 or 6 objective mission, I already know what my 3 are going to be, but I also know that if I have to drop one, like banners, like, say he deep strikes everywhere, like against the mirror, probably won't take banners because he can be in my deployment zone. I have nothing to really screen out with, so I'm going to assume I'm going to lose my backfield. I probably won't take banners, but I could take something else instead.
And now that you have an additional secondary, like, you won't get fucked over that game that you picked a bad secondary for. Like, that's what's so good about it, is like you're losing points for the primary. So now it's closer. It's 2 to 3 points closer now. And you're getting additional secondary where you can make up for that primary.
Which is a great point. Yeah.
It's awesome. So I love the new way they structured it. And we played 2 of them.
It'll especially help against those missions like the Scouring and Vital Intel that's hold 2, hold 3, hold more. Not hold 1, hold 2, hold more. So, yeah. There
was also a mission, Black Templar is perfect for this. Or anybody that has a advanced deploy, like where they can deploy units within 9 inches of your lines. If you don't get a CP until you control one of the center objectives in no man's land.
Yep.
So you don't start with a CP. So if you're already low on CP, you're already not getting a CP. Black Templar, they have the 3-inch move thing where before their start, they move 3 inches, so they're already on an objective, so they get that CP no matter what. So that was the game that I played Sasha at, and he's like, well, I don't care about this because I'm already going to get a CP. I was like, well, fuck me. I don't have a CP this game.
That's
so
awesome.
That was cool for Black Templar or anybody that starts, super far up the table.
Yeah. Another reminder. Hey, chat. We're here. We're shooting the shit. If you have any questions for us, like throw them up there. We'll answer. Probably poorly, but we'll answer.
We're already 3 beers in.
Yeah. I'm 6 ounces of gin in. I don't know if that counts, but
I'm 3 in so far, and I've already went to the bathroom twice.
So when I was a wee lad and I started drinking, I never thought I'd be into gin ever. Like, I hated gin. Like, when I was DD and I'd go out with my friends, I would order a gin and tonic and nurse it because I hated that flavor. And I knew I'd never get drunk or tipsy, but I could still tell my friends, of course I'm drinking. Yeah. But man, when I got into my 30s, like my mid 30s, I started finding like delicious gin drinks, like gimlets and corpse revivers, and I'm like, it's so good. And like now I'm like going through gin like crazy. I used to hate it.
I mean, that was I drink IPAs like all 11.
Me too, buddy.
8, 10%ers. And like I would never have drank that in my 20s. Like that's fucking disgusting. It was all like Natty Ice and Miller Lite and all that shit.
No, I started with like I was poor as fuck, and I'd still drink like Arrogant Bastards and like local IPAs because my thought was, if I'm gonna drink, I might as well drink beer I like.
Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah, my friends are gonna bring over PBRs, and that's great, and but like, I want to get tipsy on the beer that I like, and then I'll maintain on the beer that I don't like.
Smart.
Right?
So and you only need to drink 2 to feel it,
Yeah. Like, I can get to where I'm feeling good, where I want to be, where I'm not like, breaking friendships and stuff, but like, I can get to where I'm feeling good, and then I can maintain it by like drinking PBRs.
Yep.
Yeah. Those are all life lessons that actually took me a while to learn. Well, I was a good boy. Like, I grew up in...
I was a good boy.
I was. Like, I grew up in a home where, like, if I wanted a drink when I was 10 or 11, I could just ask my dad. And he'd be like, yeah, go get a drink. Like, if you want some whiskey, if you want some wine. Like, we had wine at dinner and stuff. So, like, when I got into high school and everybody's acting out and they're like, we're going to go drinking, I'm like, I can just go home.
Yeah. Like I honestly, I could say that I'm the same way. My parents didn't, like, I was the spoiled but good kid. Like, I was spoiled because I knew what was wrong and right. So I knew, like, if I did something bad, it was bad. If I knew to do something good, whatever. But like, my parents, we would have parties over my house all the time. We were underage and stuff like that. And my parents would be okay with it as long as everybody stayed there. Like, nobody drove home or whatever. Like, everybody had to be responsible, stay there. Sure. And that's kind of how it was growing up. And now, like, in the same way where it's like, I'm responsible, like, I learned from my parents, like, don't be so strict, because then the kid will probably act out, so I was probably the same as you.
It's a balancing act. So like, my first time getting like blackout, fall down, idiot, like drunk, I was like 3 weeks before I turned 21.
Same.
Yeah, man. Like, I just didn't care because I could go. Like, I'd go camping with my family, and my dad would crack open a case of beer, and we'd just drink it. It wouldn't, like, it was never a taboo, weird thing. So I'm like, whatever. All my friends want to go drink, I can just go ask my dad for beer. And he's like, as long as you drink this here with me, I don't care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, whatever.
And now you're like the same way. It's like, it's not like you're fucking some, drunk or alcoholic person. It's like,
well, you don't know me that well.
Yeah, hopefully not. But like, you learned not to be so strict, and your parents are the same exact way. So
yeah,
that's cool.
Speaking of which,
all you.
I was gonna say, I actually do want to go make another drink because I've been without for like 20 minutes.
I'm gonna get a drink.
Now, so. Okay, well, So we have okay. I'll let you go first. I'll let you go first. So again, anyone in chat, if you have any questions, comments, whatever, if you want to talk about drinking or Grey Knights or 40k or what your worst matchups are or what you hope that the faction is going to get in the future, whatever, please, like, let us know. We live stream because we want your interaction. If we didn't want your interaction, we would just record this and edit it later. So anything you have to say at all, like what your first car was. I'm a big car guy. I'd love to know what everybody's first car was.
How we switched to beer, because that's like such an ongoing topic forever.
I'm in the Pacific Northwest, man. We take our beers seriously here. I brew my own.
Here. That's awesome. You gotta try and, I don't know if you could ship out beer. Can you? You can ship out beer, right? Just don't keep it cold. You probably can. There's got to be a way to ship out the beer.
You're not supposed to without a distributor's license.
Lies. I won't.
Wink, wink. But you're not actually supposed to ship alcohol without a distributor's license. Will anybody care if you do? Probably not. But you're also not really supposed to. So
I'm by Philadelphia, so there's so many breweries around me. There's 12 maybe, like local microbrews. And they're all good. Like, well, there's like not a bad microbrew by
There are 12 like within miles of me. Really? Welcome to Portland, man. We are a mecca of micro breweries. Yeah. So
I want to brew my own beer. That's gonna be awesome.
It's actually really easy and really cheap. Like a starting brewing set's like $100.
That's awesome.
And then the ingredients will cost you probably about $40, and you make 5 gallons. I'm not even kidding.
That's a
you make
long
5 gallons of beer. Yeah. So, okay. I'm gonna make a drink. I'm gonna leave it to Derek. You have up the chat, right?
No.
We're not gonna leave people hanging. No. Thanks.
Where the hell's the chat? I know. I fucked
Go to
up.
my.
Oh, you linked it to me. Let me click on it.
Yeah, we really made this work. All right, I'll be right back. Like 2 minutes.
Yeah, literally 2 minutes. All right, I'll hop on. I can just talk about Grey Knight, the list that I fucking built.
I was actually gonna say, so why don't you talk about that list, or you talk about some of the things that you'd like to see to make Grey Knights more interesting.
Yes. Yes.
Not that isn't buffing Dreadnoughts or interceptors.
I think the biggest thing with I've just been practicing, like, all right, I know we're not going to have 5 Dreadnoughts, and if we do, that's a miracle, but trying out 4 Dreadnoughts at least and still being competitive. Like, it's basically 30 interceptors, 4 Dreadnoughts, yada yada. Hold on, I'm trying to pull up the chat so I can actually read what the hell you guys are saying. All right, cool, got it right there. But the stuff that I want to see in the meta, Paladins, obviously I want to see do well, but there's so much stuff that has to go into it for Paladins to be good. They need the 4-up invuln save for the Sanctuary. They need the armor resilience for the the 1-up save. I think the ethereal castigation for the move, shoot, and then move again would be good to set them up in a good position, because instead of moving up 5 and then shooting, they can move up 5. There's so much stuff that has to cast a power and then move up another 5 inches. So basically they have like a 10-inch move on turn 1 or turn 2. I wonder if they could probably move up or run. I think the ethereal castigation. That's a question. So can you run and cast a psych power? Because if you can, then they're fucking running super, super far on turn 1. That would be awesome. But again, that's the thing, is like I lost 5 of my freaking Paladins one time because I didn't get off Sanctuary. So if you don't get off one of the power, or they block the power, they're kind of screwed, So like you need to make sure that there's other ways to get it off, or other ways to, like, if you don't get it off, at least have a warding staff in your unit, and then you're good to go. So Shazzy, the tournament rundowns, I love doing them. I just want to make sure you guys actually like seeing them, because my channel is more of like a competitive type channel rather than just like, you know, One Last Blade where he does a lot of lore and you know, more I like to run fun stuff. I also like to run fun stuff. If you've ever seen any of my tournament videos, almost every single tournament I've run, I think honestly every single one of them has been a different list. So yeah. With what the Storm Raven, I want to run a Storm Raven. I want to run a Land Raider. The Storm Raven, though, is 360 points, which I think is ridiculously expensive. If they reduce the limit on the Storm Raven, I think everybody will start running it, because the Storm Raven puts out so much firepower, but then it just dies. So I made a Storm Raven list. It has Tech Marine, Castling Crow, and a Nemesis Dreadnought. Tech Marine has the Gate of Affinity. He also has Divination, so it's in a Prescient list. Castling Crow has Warp Shaping, so he's the one to change the tides if you need it. And the Dreadnought has Empiric Amplification and Sanctuary. He's the one that's going to basically be putting out the 4-up Invuln save on your Storm Raven on turn 1, because he's going to be able to be up further. So he has an 18-inch, I believe, cast on the Sanctuary, so he can actually reach the Storm Raven if it goes literally all the way across the table. Then we have 2 Strike Squads. This is in a Strike Force, I believe. Yeah, we only need 2. Yeah, so you only need 2 troops. Servitors, not in the list. Dreadnought. So the Dreadnought is in the Storm Raven, just so that way if the Storm Raven blows up, or if you get actually across it, the Storm Raven can drop off the Dreadnought, and the Dreadnought comes out with a multi-melta, and then just, it's a Venerable Dread, so it always hits on 2, so you don't have to buff it. But it gets out of the Storm Raven, it blows up whatever the fuck it wants to blow up, and it can charge whatever it wants to charge, because it's a Venerable Dread. And what you can do with the Tech Marine, this is the thing, is you give the Storm Raven +1 to hit. And then the Storm Raven runs, 25, 30 inches, gets to wherever it wants to get to, shoot at hitting on 2s, using 1 CP if you want to use Sidebolt ammunition for the Hurricane Bolters. And then it literally just kind of like kills whatever it wants to kill. But it hits on 2s. That's so freaking cool. But before it moved away, the Tech Priest gets in the Storm Raven. So Tech Priest gets in the Storm Raven. So the Storm Raven gets hurt, Tech Priest gets out turn 2, heals it, and then everybody else gets out and charges whatever it wants to charge. 20 Interceptors, so 2 10-man Interceptors, 2 Dreadnoughts, and the Storm Raven. So the thought process is Crow and the Tech Marine getting into the Storm Raven, running all the way across the table. You have the Dreadnought and the 2 other Dreadnoughts walking across the table. 10 Interceptors in the Storm Raven, and then 2 HQs in the Storm Raven as well. So thought process is the Storm Raven hits on 2s. What do you think about that? 4 Melta shots, all the Hurricane Bolters with the Sidebolt ammunition, and
it's the same. It's the same thing I tried with my It's a fresh Codex list. It's the exact same thing, except I also gave it the 4-up Invul from Swordbearers. Except I didn't put the Tech Marine inside of it. So mine started on my side, obviously. I gave it all the buffs. It ran off. It then smoked his Archon, who he left at the back of his of his army. So it smoked the Archon. It then, over the last 4 turns, ended up getting drugged down to 1 wound and living forever and just scoring me a bunch of engage on all fronts.
Yeah.
That's all it did.
But
it wasn't worth 310 points for it.
Oh, it's just it does a lot, but it dies. That's the thing. It does a shit ton of stuff, but can you get 360 points worth of it killing shit? And most of the time it's no. It's going to get maybe 150 to 250 points. It's losing out on so many points.
I'm going to use this opportunity here to bring up. So part of my like what's wrong with Grey Knight's like episodic video series is I brought up how I don't think the Brotherhoods do enough, right? So here's a little sneak peek. I'm gonna actually move this into a new document. Here's a sneak peek to the idea, and I'm doing a sneak peek because, full disclosure, the rest of the stuff isn't really fleshed out yet, and it seems kind of like a 13-year-old's dream. But I do want to point out, if we go back to the web browser here, or I'm sorry, not the web browser. Oh no, there it was. Everybody could see it. Go to the list. Here we go. All right. So this is kind of what my point is that if Sword Bearers did something like this, they granted this passive ability